What's up, guys? A little bit of a different stream tonight. Um, Call of Duty is going to be my second thing. The first thing is we're looking at these elections results up here in the top right corner, something new I'm trying. I want to go over what they're saying and what's going on. It's something, like I said, something new. We're just going to go over the results, what's going on state by state. You can see Kentucky, 58% polls are in. We got 61 Donald Trump, 37 Harris. So yeah, I might play some games. As you guys can hear my laptop audio as well. And we're just hearing what's going on. It's a big event. What's gonna happen tonight? So I'm trying something new. I know. Hopefully it works out. Maybe some of you are into it, maybe some not. But it's a 4-year thing. It's a big event for our country. What's happening tonight, and I feel like why not mix both up? So here we are.
Obviously a Tennessee Titan, NFL football player. So the kind of guy who could get some sizzle down in Texas, and it became the most expensive Senate race in the country.
That's what he said.
They spent an enormous amount of money trying to unseat Ted. And one of the reasons Ted is vulnerable is because Trump kind of shivved him at the RNC, back in 2016. And because Ted has played so hard himself with people like Mitch McConnell and his colleagues in the Senate that they didn't give him a lot of support from the institution out of this race. And so I just think that...
Okay, good. You guys can hear it. Good. Perfect. We're looking good. Yeah, guys. I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna be up all night here, but...
As a representative of the Daily Wire, but as a friend of Ted Cruz, and I wrote an ad for him, which...
But as a friend of Ted Cruz, and I wrote an ad for him, which I think turned out maybe to be...
I'm over here just looking at the actual score itself. You guys can see the same thing I can. Looking at New Jersey right now, 24% votes are reported. Not looking good for Trump, but I think that's what people expect. It's not much different than other, besides Georgia, but we'll get to that as it goes. I'm listening to the same thing you guys are hearing. So let's play some zombies or something.
I think that Ted has run a great campaign.
If you guys need me to turn the volume down on something up on something,
It would be, in fact,
let me know. I'm less interested in the gaming volume today.
Going to win the presidency. They're going to win the Senate. They're going to win that. Whereas I don't know that that's necessarily the case, even as recently as 8 weeks ago.
Obviously, I said that's part of it, but we're here to have a conversation about the election. What the changes.
Yeah, like massive energy for Ted Cruz. By the way, one piece of interesting NBC exit poll. Again, always with the proviso that exit polls are chicken entrails. But Pennsylvania independent voter exit poll out of NBC News: Trump 50, Harris 44. If that holds, Trump's going to win Pennsylvania. He's going to win the presidency.
Oh,
Let's hope that.
Pennsylvania's looking good.
Meanwhile, Brent Buchanan from Signal, he is with us, and he has some updates from Georgia. Brent, tell us all about what's happening in Georgia as more of the vote is coming in.
Well, we're starting to see some of the northern counties begin to report, which is what we had talked about earlier. And so we look at places like Cobb County, Georgia here is beginning to report. So this is a very large county that in the past has voted for Joe Biden. Let me look at the numbers here. So this was a seat that, or a county that Joe Biden won by 14 points, and you can see that currently he is doing some quick math here. I love tenths of a percentage. He's currently up by 16 points, or she's up by 16 points in this seat. So one of the biggest trends that we're beginning to see across Georgia specifically is that there are some places where she's doing better. She's improving upon Biden's margins. The vote share is higher, but then you're starting to see some of these rural counties come in also too. And so we've got Forsyth County here as an example, and this is a county that Trump won by 33 points, and currently he is up by 37. So you can see you've got kind of a counterbalance effect here of two northern arc Georgia counties. One
Red America is
55.
getting redder and blue America is getting bluer, is what this tells me.
That's a really good point. And then you throw in, again, let's go back to Fayette County that we were talking about earlier. This is a county that Trump won by 7, and now you can see how tight this margin is. And so if we're talking about blue and red America, Fayette County is the county in between blue and red America, and it has shifted somewhat in her direction. So overall, we're seeing a lot of the same trends in that the rurals are doing better, but this partisanship gap of if you were in a blue county, you're voting even more heavily blue, at least in the swing states. And again, I go back to what you brought up in the last
Alpha
segment,
Team,
talking about Loudoun
this is Chief
County.
Security
That's a
Blanchard.
really interesting
Are you aside for
place
sore
because they had
eyes?
220,000
I've been holed up in the mansion since yesterday trying to
That's
organize a
down to about
containment response.
212,000. So
Now that you're
8,000
here,
vote drop, and it looks to have almost come exclusively
try
off
body
the
cams
back
and
of
coordinate.
Kamala Harris. And so Donald Trump is performing at his ballot share, actually a little bit
He's
above
doing-
the ballot share that
okay.
he got in 2020 in a county like that. And then you combine that with Florida, which is just wildly red, and you begin to see how the national polling has showed a very tight presidential race. And we saw a lot of this in 2022 also, where Republicans...
He's up right now.
lost
Trump's up right
nationally
now.
on the general
Kamala's.
ballot and ended up in that place, and then just barely won the House of Representatives. So I don't think this election is turning out so far to look much like 2020 or even 2016. It's got a lot of 2022 vibes to it, at least that we're starting to see come in. And that's very strong Republican votes, but it's not showing up evenly across the country. And so I'm really interested.
I'm really scared to
see
do this, guys, because the
what
headphone
other
thing.
states that aren't like a Florida as they come in. You know, we're sitting here at Georgia in total of about 63% reporting.
Okay.
This margin
We're good.
continues to get closer as the votes are counted. And I think this is going to be a really indicative state as we begin to go through the night. But it feels a whole lot like 2022 right now, where Republicans are performing very strongly, but it's not necessarily netting us yet in the places that we need to net. It's just increasing our margins in places like Florida and Loudoun County that actually don't matter that much
So,
overall.
well, let's talk about sort of, the question of voting by race. For instance, massive polls that show that Trump is performing strongly so far in Hispanic districts. The next poll that somebody said earlier suggested that he was doing well with black men in Georgia. Well, what does the turnout look like? Do we know yet, in terms of exit polling or any other data, what the turnout looks like racially in a state like Georgia, which is obviously a very heavily demographically black state?
Yeah, a lot of those counties haven't reported yet, especially the rural black counties. So if we come down to some of these counties down here, so Coffee County, we can look at some of the census data of what this looks like. I mean, this is 28% black. What's really interesting is that this county actually looks a whole lot, or at least racially, like the state of Georgia. It does over-index on Hispanic and under-index Asian, but it gets the black percentage about right when you're thinking what the
Oh, gosh.
we look at the results for Coffee County, it hadn't come in at all. So
That's
there's
fine.
just several places where there's not a ton of votes. I mean, they're expecting, 16,000 votes here for Coffee County as an example, but there's just a lot of holes in the map still. And even when we look at places like Fulton County here, 74% reporting. I mean, this is turning out pretty much like you would project. So this Fulton County is Atlanta, and then goes into Buckhead and a little bit further north into that top part there that you see. And so I would say we're still pretty early in the night. If we're going to say that they're good Republican data points and good Democrat data points, if I had to compare the two, I would say that there are more good Republican data points so far coming in. And they tend to look like it's trending even more so that direction.
We do have a couple of calls from the Associated Press. The Associated Press is saying that Virginia is going to go for Kamala Harris, and they are also suggesting that I believe, what was the other state? There's another state they just called for Kamala Harris. Illinois, I believe. Massachusetts,
Illinois,
New Hampshire.
yeah.
New Hampshire is the one that was sort of my outlier. So those dreams have been dashed of New Hampshire turning red.
Well, again, it's 33% reporting, so we can't really look into it and say what happened. I think it's just if you're looking at states that aren't actually that competitive and have not had hundreds of millions of dollars spent on them, they're kind of performing like you would expect them to perform. Not a lot of money was spent in Florida this go-around, and I think that depresses the Democrat and left-leaning non-affiliated voter turnout there. In a place like New Hampshire,
Go Florida.
there wasn't much advertising. We did a huge study in 2022 after the election and looked at where large amounts of spending went compared to races that didn't have a lot of spending. And you saw, if it was a red seat and it didn't have any spending, you actually saw severe drops in Democratic turnout because they had no reason to show up. Like they knew it was going to be a guaranteed victory. And so places like New Hampshire are a really good example where not a whole lot of money spent, not even a ton of money in the congressional races comparatively were spent. And so it's just giving you what you would expect it to give you in a final result.
Well, Brent Buchanan will check back in shortly. Our election map coverage this evening is made possible by our sponsor, Lumen. Hack your metabolism with one simple way to
screw that.
understand your
We
body
can-
more with Lumen.
We can go without that.
interesting that
So you guys kind of understand what we're going. We're just kind of listening, and we're gonna play as we go. I can turn it down too as we go. Like, let me know. But we're listening, playing. That's all. We're gonna do together a comment.
At 60-40 Trump.
60-40 Trump.
EV breakdown is 279 to 259. Before New Hampshire came in, they had it up to 280 as a possibility, but okay, we're at 279 still. You're seeing a little breakaway here, even coming from the liberal outlets.
says it's a toss-up.
Interesting.
The meter is moving closer to lean.
They've got the needle back. The needle is back. The famous
needle is
needle
back,
that had,
yeah.
that
Where
had
are the
Hillary Clinton at
degenerate
99%.
Anything could happen
I
though.
know, that's what I
Where's
want
the
to get to.
degenerate gambler crowd?
You know, Megan, what are you hearing from the evangelical? You know, we've heard so much about the evangelicals being kind of told not to vote or told that they should vote woke or whatever. What are you hearing?
I mean, that's a very real thing.
Yeah.
It's both from a standpoint of you have pastors, and I can tell you some very well-known, influential pastors, people like Andy Stanley. Who,
Just wanna get the volume right, guys.
He has a church of about 38,000 in Georgia, and he had a book out last year called Not In It to Win It, Why Choosing Sides Sidelines the Church. So I think that has been a major factor. Jeremy was talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
The messaging that you're getting from a lot of these pastors that it's dirty to get your hands in politics, rather than understanding that, look, we as a constituency
all coming from my
have
headphones?
to be able
Jesus.
to leverage our political power for the cause of righteousness. That's not what they're arguing. And at the same time, you also have literally, and you and I talked about this on your show, hard left secular foundations who are funneling money into gambits and efforts to try to push this narrative that it's better
23% Indiana.
from the
Trump is
political
up in
process.
Indiana significantly.
Jesus is neither left
Significantly
nor right.
up.
Of course, the implication there is that
Kentucky
the left
as
and right
well.
are equivalents, and they're not. But I think you have a lot of pastors who are unwilling to stand up and seem like they're partisan and push back against that narrative.
This, hit a very
Massachusetts, only 3% are in.
Jack Hibbs on, one of the best known.
Yeah, he's not doing well in Massachusetts. Kamala 66, Trump 31, damn near half.
Vote. But this notion, Jesus is neither left nor right. And it doesn't matter whether you're Catholic, Protestant, or Jew. I, for 17 years, have conducted Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah services Sorry in you Los came, Angeles. Well, And anyone had to show up. I'm glad it was me. I never talk politics, by the way. That's one of the reasons I founded this synagogue, was not to talk politics. But I'm obviously conservative in religiously and morally. And one of my subjects, and I choose them very carefully because most of the people have heard me on the radio and in speeches, so I need something really big, not one that I've addressed. How does one explain when religion, specifically Judaism and Christianity, or Christianity, doesn't make people better? It's always bothered me. The first book I wrote, I was 24 years old, the 9 questions people ask about Judaism, and one of the questions was, If religion is supposed to make people better, how do you account for unethical religious people? And that has bothered me since high school. The Bible is so clear that God wants us to be good. My favorite verse in the entire Bible is, those of you who love God must, it's a commandment, in Hebrew is a command, must hate evil. If you don't hate evil, you don't love God. So for a pastor or a rabbi, that's irrelevant, or a pope, to say that Jesus doesn't take sides, he doesn't take sides on whether you cut girls' breasts off if they say they're boys, that's frightening. I do. I speak to Christians more than to Jews.
I will say that there is an aspect of Jesus, which is
Rhode Island,
you hate to use modern political
46,
vernacular
Donald Trump,
to talk about
52.
ancient religious
Oh, he
figures,
lost
but
Rhode
there's a
Island.
liberal aspect to Jesus in the sense that Dr. Jordan Peterson often says that the purpose of the liberal in a healthy society is to speak for the underrepresented. It's to speak for anyone who, because in any sort of hierarchy of any kind, there are going to be people who get disenfranchised. There are going to be people who the system looks over, and someone has to remind those of us who are in power, or those of us who are ascendant, to remember those people and to care for them. But that's about where the comparison can stop. Religion is fundamentally a conservative exercise because it posits that the greatest wisdom that's ever been
Stop it,
in human
Leia!
history is behind us.
And right, there's also a transcendent, eternal moral order and human nature. And, it's hard to square that with the liberal project, which is in itself largely a rejection of religion. I mean, you think of the French Revolution is where we get the terms left and right. And what does that come from? That comes from the National Assembly, where the Catholics sat on the right and the atheists sat on the left. And that was pretty much the breakdown.
Speaking of the French Revolution, our friend Tim Pool is joining us now. And not a moment too soon, because the polls are closing in a number of states just in the last few minutes, all throughout the central part of the country, including Texas, my own state, which you will be shocked to learn universally called for.
Hey, come on!
Trump. So, they were going into the election. There were all kinds of things that people were, maybe New York will go for Trump, and maybe Texas will go for Harris. All that is wish casting. We still live in a world where gravity works.
Let's see what
here's some
these.
quick calls. Trump wins Wyoming, Trump wins Kansas, Trump wins North Dakota, Trump wins South Dakota, Trump wins Nebraska, Trump wins Louisiana, and Kamala wins New York. So Donald Trump's big dream of winning New York, well, that one went down in flames because that's a really stupid idea.
Hey, Kamala Harris,
Texas, and
Kamala Harris did campaign in Texas.
That all just came in right now?
Yeah.
As you were walking over.
Right. Well, how are you guys feeling? We've been tracking the decision desk forecast, giving Trump about 70% chance to win. And it's going
70%.
Saying about 2-1. So, what do we think?
Oh, Virginia's neck and neck.
What do you think?
The whole time, the scariest thing is the quote-unquote shadow campaign. Right? Time Magazine writes that article. 2020 had a shadow campaign. We go to bed, Trump's ahead in all the numbers, and then we wake up and he's not winning. Based on what I've seen on the ground, I went to Philadelphia and there were Trump signs in downtown Philadelphia and the surrounding residential areas. That to me was crazy to see an urban center that was Republican or that people were unafraid. And so my gut just says Trump's got the edge, whatever that means. But I don't know the Republicans have the procedural capabilities that Democrats have. I think, Ben, you were saying they're way more professionals. That is worse.
Yeah, so there was some Gallup data that suggested that a much higher percentage of Democrats had heard directly from the Kamala campaign than Republicans had heard from the Trump campaign. The Democrats are granular on this sort of stuff. They want a ballot harvest, they will knock on doors, they will do whatever it takes to get their people out. Republicans, it always feels like, okay, guys, please just go. And the more we just shout vote at people, somebody out there, you'll open your window, you'll shout vote, and some person in Pennsylvania will hear you, and then immediately run to the polls. With that said, I mean, the enthusiasm that Trump, does enable in the voting population on both sides, but largely on the right, is unprecedented, obviously, in American history. And you are seeing that show up. If you had to game it out right now, Trump is a slight favorite. I think everyone sort of acknowledges at this point that Trump is a slight favorite, but it's a very slight favorite. So, like the needle, the New York Times needle. Yeah, they right now have it leaning right between it's a toss-up and lean Trump. Like they have it very slightly favoring President Trump. He is very slightly favored to win Pennsylvania. He's slightly favored still to win Nevada and North Carolina, according to the New York Times. Right? So I'm not citing a left-wing source right there. And of course, it seems as though we're having a better time tonight than the people on MSNBC are.
Definitely.
What I'm hearing from I'm getting a lot of
That
texts
was
from
part of the reason my joy. you know, the whole night I watched the left-wing media.
Definitely, definitely.
well, we're gonna live stream MSNBC. If this goes the wrong way, we're just gonna put a live camera outside Kamala's headquarters, and we're just gonna watch people scream into the night, and it's gonna be just wonderful.
There will be joy.
There will be joy.
You guys all know the term Schadenfreude,
Yeah.
joy at others' misery. So I don't generally have that, but that night 8 years ago.
If they do it tonight, it's like the purge, right? All moral rules are off.
Yeah.
Just get to enjoy the suffering of others.
I have been very honest with myself for the past several days. I have relatives and friends who are big libs. You know, I'm from New York. I lived in L.A. A lot of Democrat friends. And I won't bring it up with them. It won't come up at Thanksgiving.
Right,
I won't bring-
exactly.
However, I have two buddies
Yeah.
who are New York Democrats. And I don't want to get ahead of myself. I am salivating at the prospect of rubbing it in their faces so hard. So they're the only two. I think it's otherwise we have to have a politics of race, but there will be some Schadenfreude. I think it might be unavoidable.
What are we looking
As
at?
important to others, we must engage in Schadenfreude.
Arkansas, Trump is up.
Again, it's like punishing your
Trump is
child.
down in Arkansas, but it's only 11%. 6% votes reporting, and in Colorado we got
That's why I really hope that
20%
wins
Trump.
the popular vote. If Trump wins,
He's not gonna win in Colorado. I don't think he's gonna win in Colorado.
Thanksgiving, and they're going to say, you guys only win because of some archaic procedure. We're the popular man.
A procedure called the Constitution. You guys only win because of your government.
I want Trump to win the popular vote so I can just say you're wrong about everything and we're right about everything.
Well, because
So wait,
in Ohio,
you
by the way,
have that too? You have a lot of relatives who are on the left?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So wait. So do you know? Oh, so this is a fascinating question. I love this sort of thing because I always ask people about their own personal lives. I'm fascinated. The only human being I know, and you must understand how many I've had, including people I meet, which is a lot, on the radio, just people calling in. Literally the only person I know, all of whose relatives are conservative, is my wife.
Wow.
Really?
Yes. She's going to live till 170. She has no misery.
What's the point of
Hey!
Thanksgiving? You know, you can look forward
That's
to it.
right, yeah.
At least turkey's good.
I feel like Biden's having a bad election.
Oh yeah.
Jesus, sorry, my
Is
dog's
it true that
trying to watch.
Joe Biden was wearing red? Did you see
So
that?
Jill was. When Jill voted.
Jill-
So for sure, 100% Jill voted for Trump. 100%
Gotta be.
Jill.
Gotta be, right?
She just.
Jill did. She hates
At
Kamala.
the very least, they wrote in Joe Biden. There is no way they voted.
I
Mississippi
heard that
Trump's
she wanted
up.
Joe, and
Yeah.
she wore red.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So Brett.
Whoa, red, that matters.
Right.
Is that a new thing?
Well,
You're wearing the Republican colors,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah, no, I didn't know about that.
remarkable.
it's like a nudge, you know?
But doesn't Donald Trump often wear a blue tie? I mean, I
He's got the red tie, the
he
yellow
always
tie.
has a red tie, really?
Occasionally the blue. You know, something people
Hey.
forget about election night
Oh,
history.
They switched
It was,
it.
I'm on
yeah,
stream
it was
right now.
always up in the air. Sometimes,
Okay.
you know, when Reagan won, it was blue was Republican and red was
I'm
Democrat.
live. I'm listening
is
to
the
the
way it
fucking
ought to
election.
be.
right
Yes,
They're the
they're the
Reds.
Reds. They're the
Yeah.
Reds. But it was the 2000 election. I think it was Tim Russert in particular. That was really when it started to solidify as red for Republican, blue for Democrat. And I totally agree with you guys. They are actually reds, so it fits them. And red is an unattractive color. Well, I'm wearing a red shirt jacket. But I mean that bright red, it's like a stop sign or something.
Burgundy.
This is burgundy. This
Yeah.
is more like a plum.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
In Ohio, it looks like Bernie Moreno is going to cruise to victory over Sherrod Brown.
Let's
that
go.
That was a close
Really?
race.
Let's go.
Sherrod Brown is going to be ousted.
All right, baby.
Wow, that's big.
Yeah, that takes
Wow.
Republicans to 52 in the Senate.
Wow.
The more durable majority, obviously.
West Virginia was fairly obvious.
Yeah.
When they
Right.
called that, I'm like, I live there. And
Right.
Yeah.
Shane on our show was like, there's no cities in West Virginia. You've got nothing to worry about.
No, that's a great line.
Yeah.
So we're being joined right now from Harris HQ in DC by our very own Spencer Lindquist. Spencer, how are things catching up over there?
Yeah, that's right. So we're here in D.C., right in the middle of the swamp, and people have been really trickling in now. Most everybody is here at the party, and it is a large crowd. I spoke with some people earlier, and they said they were cautiously optimistic. 3 young men who go to school here at Howard, and they all think Kamala's going to take it, but really none of them seem to be confident. So we still have a long time ahead of us before we have the results.
Have you been able to talk to any attendees inside the party?
Attendees inside the party. You know, it really is a large crowd. They're listening to music right now and really kind of just hanging out, waiting for these results to roll in. You know, we saw Illinois be called Harris, a couple of other states called Harris, and they're sitting here watching, kind of waiting for these results to roll in. And people seem to be, you know, they're excited, a little bit jittery even, and cautiously optimistic, I think, is the general tone of those here on the ground.
I don't mind this jittery. What do you think is the most likely victory map if he does end up winning tonight?
You know, reporters and analysts all week leading up to the election have said that Kamala Harris' most direct path to victory really could lead through those 3 key Rust Belt states, those three swing states. So you've got Michigan, Wisconsin, and of course Pennsylvania, which has 19 electoral votes. And if Kamala Harris won those 3 states, you could have Trump winning North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, even Nevada, and he would still come away with a very, very slim margin. But Kamala Harris victory nonetheless. Those 3 states really are key, and they're going to be ones that we're going to be keeping an eye on tonight.
And as you've been looking around D.C. for the last day or two, you know, we see reports about shopkeepers boarding up their businesses. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, we were hanging out really right around the White House in downtown Washington, D.C., and there's a number of different businesses ranging from, you know, small restaurants to office buildings, and they were putting up plywood. You know, we saw violence here in D.C. after Trump's inauguration in January of 2017. We saw violence around the country directly following Trump's election in 2016. So there is an indication that if Trump does win this election, there could be more violence here, and that's exactly what those businesses are preparing for.
If they start boarding up the windows at the White House, please text us. That's the thing. I'm going to want to get a head start.
Well, really appreciate it, Spencer. We'll check back in with you in just a little bit. Daily Wire's footprint at Harris HQ is made possible by their friends at PBS Debt. Get a custom plan right now to become debt-free at pbsdebt.com/dailywire. By the way, a good exit poll alert from NBC News suggesting that Donald Trump may win up to 45% of Latino vote. That is a big number. That is a very, very big number. Yeah.
Bush getting over there? He got a huge number.
I think he had about 40,000.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah,
okay.
Like
that was the biggest ever, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a major realignment. I mean, again, the Democrats, for a couple of reasons, have totally misread the Hispanic population in the United States. I mean, they misread them on policy. They think they're left-wing San Francisco liberals so long as you keep the border open. But they also, I think, made a huge mistake in 2020, misreading the Hispanic population by using this dumbass notion of BIPOC. Right, this idea that like every member of minority was the same as every other member of minority. So Asians were the same as black people, the same as Hispanic people. First of all, Hispanic people ain't even the same as Hispanic people, right?
Of course.
Cuba is not the same as Argentina, which is not the same as Venezuela. I mean, these are all different countries with completely different histories, and they think different ways. And the attempt to lump everybody, and then I think in 2020 when they were like, listen, if you're Latino, you must believe that Black Lives Matter is the most important thing in the world. You started to see the shift then. I think you saw a lot of Hispanics go, you know, no. The answer is no. That's not the same thing.
I think Latin actually probably offensive to a lot of Hispanics as well.
They think so.
I mean, they're like, what does that mean?
We do know, though, actually, that the Democrats are aware at some level that Hispanics are not all the same, because Obama, as he was opening up immigration from everywhere in Latin America, did close the door on the Cubans. He said, no, for the first time, forget about those Cubans, you're going back, but everyone else, Venezuelans, please come over.
Meanwhile, another NBC News exit poll in Wisconsin, suggesting this Dasha Burns of NBC News, suggesting that Trump has doubled his black support in Wisconsin. Trump's polling apparently about 20% of the black vote versus 78% for Kamala Harris.
In Wisconsin, those are getting recounted.
You're looking at identity realignment happening in real time in this election cycle. It's amazing. And so the final identity the Democrats are just banging on is white ladies. White single ladies. That is really, honest to God.
Well, black ladies too.
We talk about single ladies. Are the constituency of the Democratic Party.
That's right.
Which is why Kamala Harris is campaigning so hard to get those people out to vote and campaign almost solely on abortion, because she's dropping support like flies with Hispanic men, with black men.
People with compassion for reason.
I mean, also, and it's not among single women. It's not as though everybody of every race is single. I think that it really depends on how likely you are to get married as a single woman, as a member of those populations. Right? If you like this question we were talking about with Gordon was married women obviously vote very much like their husband. Is that because they're being forcibly moved by their husband, or is it because the types of women who tend to get married tend to be the types of women who vote like their husbands?
And people also marry people like themselves.
Well, but marriage also changes people. I think that's an important part of it.
And children. Yeah.
And children change people.
But it's also increasingly a self-selected group, meaning the kinds of people who want to get married are also the kinds of people who are going to tend to vote Republican a little bit. By the way,
New York
Kelly Ayotte is now your governor of New Hampshire. She's a Republican, so Trump doesn't win the state, but Ayotte is the governor.
That's the first Republican governor that has to be done.
Like 5 minutes ago.
No. Oh, yes. Okay, sorry.
I do want to say the worst thing that I saw.
The New York Times needle has now shifted over to leaning to Trump.
It's now leaning Trump.
66 to 54.
Wait. What's 66-34?
66% likelihood, according to the New York Times.
Why do you keep saying it? You kept saying it. You said it's just slightly. I don't know if that's not.
They're saying leaning Trump, but they're saying the likelihood, given that lean. So it went from toss-up into the lean category. This is all this like stupid needle.
Why is 66 lean? That's all I'm asking. 66 is not lean.
That's 2-1.
They're saying it's not. They're not saying Trump is going to win. 66.
No. They're saying it's a 60% chance he'll win.
Yes,
but that's not lean.
No, I mean
I don't know why that's.
I guess
is 54, 46.
Dennis. The same needle once said that Hillary Clinton
I guess
99%.
That's my point.
Okay, I agree. I agree with that. It's just the word lean. It's juxtaposed to that.
Because you do think the last time we talked about this needle, it was to watch and just go like,
I don't want to move too far from this conversation about the gender gap in the electorate without talking about the hands-down, bar none, worst political ad of my lifetime, put out by a PAC supporting Kamala Harris that encouraged women to lie to their husbands. I think divorce is a grave evil, something we could argue about one of these days. I might divorce my wife if I found out that she lied to me. I would not divorce my wife for voting for someone with whom I deeply disagree. That would be a challenge. You'd have to, because you in a marriage need to have a common set of values and a common mission. But to find out that your spouse just lies to you about who to vote for.
Did you see the Whisper campaign that the Washington Post was reporting on? They said after that ad went out, women were putting Post-it notes in bathroom stalls saying, your husband won't know, your boyfriend won't know, your vote is a secret.
Hey, what's up, cool mans? We're listening to the election right now, one of the most important elections of my lifetime.
That's what women were doing.
What we got?
For them, I guess.
Mississippi, only 13%. See, this is how do some of the states, like Florida, like our wonderful states, already decided?
Exemplary of the Democrat Party because. The fundamental.
North Dakota, 4%.
It's not the individual, right?
Who do you think?
Political unit means it's the family.
Who do you think?
And the Democrats have been so relentless in their assaults on the family, taking your kids away from you, promoting
the obvious
divorce,
answer,
discouraging marriage, promoting abortion, all down the line, all the way up to, hey, folks.
Let's just say the one that's not with the Diddy party.
You divide up your marriage, and that will divide up the country, and we win.
The New York Times, if you follow the New York Times, they run at least 3 articles a week suggesting...
It's not who I want to win. It's who we need to win.
Destroy or enslave you, unless you're married. If you're married, they keep saying...
Yes, Trump all the way.
They literally have these articles, but you don't want to consider it a
If you're childless and alone, maybe... a decent evolutionary.
We need our economy back.
Up other people's marriages.
We need everything back.
I'm serious about that. Like you have no idea what sort of machinations people are capable of.
Wow.
When what they're fighting for is the probability that they will end up in a couple. Like there's no holds barred, and it certainly is against the strategy. If you're not in a couple and other people are, then one of your strategies is to do everything you can to break that up. Why wouldn't you? You're going to solidify the situation, and you might say, well, that's counterproductive in the long run. It's like, well, maybe you're not concerned about the long run if you're that desperate. Because desperate people tend not to be concerned with the long run. We do have this terrible mystery that conservatives haven't unlocked, which is the absolutely aberrant pattern of attitudes and voting patterns that characterize single women between the ages of 18 and 34. Like, there's a big problem there, and it's a real mystery. It can't just be passed over because what they're doing is radically different than what everyone else is doing, and it's enough to consistently see in the election.
And we were talking about this last night on your show, this idea that people like Sophie Gambler and others keep talking about how they do drugs and have sex with themselves all day, and they're so genuinely happy. And my argument was that they actually are happy. I don't think that they're lying. I think that they don't know that there's an entire realm of human emotion that happens in marriage, and then when you have children that they're not even aware of. They live
a
in
trivial emotion.
Yeah, happy.
And the fact that we're obsessed with happiness, even on the psychological side, is an indication of how trivial our culture is. I mean, one of the things that you see quite consistently in psychological research is that couples without children are happier than couples with children. It's like, well, you shouldn't have children. It's like, no, you shouldn't use happiness measurements as your index of outcome. Of course you're less happy because like your 3-year-old is fragile. If you have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, it's like, well, you're juggling catastrophes all the time. Well, seriously, you don't have time to be happy. It's like, but happiness is a fleeting hedonic emotion, and it's not an indicator of participation in a process that's going to stabilize your life and the life of your family across
enrich your life.
It is. It's the permanent adolescence.
Yeah, that's right.
Coming generations. They are.
What do you mean slow mode?
I look at.
What do you mean turn off slow mode?
Story of how dogs
What's slow mode?
domesticated. They say that dogs are effectively just permanent adolescent wolves. I see that's what's happening to humanity.
What's
right
slow
now.
mode?
Current trend.
What's slow mode?
People not to grow up, play video games.
What do you mean
stay
slow
home, stay
mode?
single, live in your own.
This seems
internal
fine to
world.
me. What do you mean? What's
But
slow
I believe
mode?
that is spiritual suicide.
That's the Peter Pan story.
Yeah,
right? And Peter Pan has Tinkerbell, the porn
What do you mean?
Serious, dead serious.
I didn't do
He's
anything.
The Lost Boys, right? Well, that's a form of king.
I'm playing full
It's not
stock.
perhaps the kingship that you choose, and he foregoes the possibilities of maturity to remain in this childhood family. The only thing
Our media
it
is
is
telling
hedonistic.
Our media is telling everybody to keep doing it.
Yeah.
They're telling you you're selfish if you try to live and have a family and experience what you should be doing. And also, I believe your moral duty, which is for those that are religious to be fruitful and multiply, but for the sake of humanity. If you look at it from a more secular point of view, something like Elon Musk, if we do not reproduce, civilization collapses. And they are telling people to just keep existing and to be permanent.
But I kind of disagree with you a bit about this because people who do these things, I've known a lot
What
of
is slow
people in
mode?
Hollywood for quite a while, and I've known a lot of people who are like that. I don't think they're happy. I think they have that kind of surface brittle, smiley happiness, but you only have to question them talking for 10, 20 minutes and the depth of despair underneath that. It's like thin ice over a bowl.
Well,
Jesus.
that's why the measurements are out. The measurements are terribly out of whack. It's like if you're going to do research on something as fundamental as human well-being, you're bloody well sure the measurements are
We also have to
they're not.
We have to establish the definition of happiness. Right. It's like these guys are talking about happiness as though, in the way we talk about it in modern times, which is a fleeting little emotion, or you get tickled.
Fuck.
But, happiness we used to understand as rational activity done with excellence and
All right.
with virtue.
Pennsylvania, 6%?
We used to believe
What?
that actually there was an end to mankind.
That was election day.
For man, there was a purpose for marriage. We could know things by their purpose. That ground has totally shaken underneath us. So when we disagree over what makes us happy, unfortunately, the problem is even
Alabama,
we
that's
don't even
clearly
know what-
Trump all
Maybe this is
day.
actually why
That's the
I always
measurement
say this in a way that because we talk about this from time to time and you guys disagree with me, but for example, 2023 was the hardest year of my life. I mean, it was genuinely traumatizingly hard. And I still would have told you
We'll
I
be
was,
right back,
I was
guys.
miserable, but I was also happy.
Right.
What do you mean slow mode?
I was certainly not at my best, but I still would have considered myself a happy person even in my misery. And I think that it may be that I'm just defining happiness differently. I don't think of happiness as
What was it about your life that would have motivated you to
Well,
go through your
I suppose that what I would say is that I was fulfilled.
Right. Well, and that's a multidimensional issue, right? I mean, you can tolerate a lot of pain even if your relationships are intact and you're moving towards a purpose that you regard as worthwhile. So one of the things that's worthwhile to understand purely from the perspective of the psychophysiology of happiness is that the positive emotion that's produced by drugs like cocaine, for example, which make you happy, that positive emotion is always experienced in relationship to a goal, right? So that the happiness that people strive towards is only possible psychopharmacologically if you observe yourself moving towards a valued goal. And so that has a number of implications, one of which is no goal, no happiness, right? Or maybe happiness of only the most fleeting and easily substituted kind. We also know from animal research, for example, that it's very difficult, it's very easy to get rats that are isolated in a cage addicted to cocaine. And you can get them addicted rapidly to the point where they will basically not drink water or eat or engage in sex. They'll just push a button to get cocaine until they die. But if they're living in their wild habitat and doing like normative rat things, it's almost impossible to get them addicted to cocaine. And so even at the purely level of pure pharmacological reward, if you have animals in a habitat where they're pursuing their intrinsic biologically determined goals, then they're participating in processes that make
Indiana, let's go.
Forms of fleeting happiness. And we've blown that all apart in our society, and we don't know how much that's enraging. I
But
really
this is,
think it's enraging.
you can never tell. You can never tell to the end.
Absolutely. So we know that, for example, half of women who
50-50. Maine, he's got. I think he'll win Maine.
Wow.
Right, that we hit that milestone last year in the West. Half of them will never have children. That's the prognostication. 95% of them will regret that. So we're already in a situation.
I like this guy. He's a smart guy. Jordan Peterson.
1 woman in 4 to permanent isolation and alienation. Isolation and alienation. And we have no idea how angry they are about that. But like you can be sure that they're angry at a level that's so deep that you can barely comprehend it.
And you're not even allowed to talk about it because you're offending them by saying that the childless cat lady is not in a good position to judge the future. And this thing about time is everything, right? I mean, you have kids and it's difficult, but it's a beautiful experience. It's an enriching experience. It's the experience that turns life from 2 dimensions into 3 dimensions. And at some
Kentucky,
point,
Trump's
it's
got
incredibly
Kentucky.
rewarding to have done it. You know, I mean, I can sit and look at my grandchildren without doing anything for hours. I actually said to my wife, we have to go because I'll never accomplish anything ever again because I'm just happy watching them play with Legos. You know, it's like.
Well, I'm the rat with a job. And maybe the reason that I consider myself, even when I'm sort of miserable, to be a happy person is connected to the fact that I'm not a fun-loving person. Like I don't get any sense of joy out of drinking booze or going to loud clubs.
Having a good time is not your idea of having a good time.
That's right. That is exactly right. To me, having a good time is being about my purpose. That's the source.
Well,
and that's why having children has increased my happiness.
Well, you both alluded to something that's fundamentally important on the measurement side, too. It's like almost all the things that people do in their life that they look back on with, let's say, self-assurance and something approximating reasonable pride are things they accomplished under difficult circumstances. Now, those aren't necessarily the things you pick for your hedonic pleasure. But when you look back, you think, well, that was extremely difficult and demanding and challenging, and there was a fair bit of suffering moment to moment while I was going through it. But man, I'm certainly more than pleased that I managed it.
And there is this thing, I call it joy, the poets used to call it gusto. There's just being alive, you know, being in that moment and thinking like, yeah, here I am. You know, I compare it sometimes when you go to a movie and you watch somebody, a character dies and you cry.
Send this link to my dad. I'll send this link to my dad.
And I think that life is
Matt Walsh is there.
if you're paying attention.
Yeah, I think of happiness as if you're doing the things that you ought to be doing, then you're happy, sort of regardless of how you may feel in any given moment while you're doing that thing. And if you're doing the things that you ought not be doing, then you're in despair, regardless of how you feel in the moment. And when that question comes up, I think back to our first film, What is a Woman, when we went to Kenya to the Maasai tribe. And there's a lot of conversations we had with the tribesmen that didn't make it into film because it wasn't exactly relevant to the topic of transgenderism. But I remember multiple times when we were talking to especially the women, and I would ask them, "Are you happy?" And every single time they would respond by saying, through the translator, they would respond by telling me about the things that they do. They say, "Well, I'm taking care of my family. I have a family. I have children. I take care of the home." That wasn't even the question. I said, "Are you happy?" And their immediate response is to talk about the things that they do.
I'm performing my appropriate
because to them there's no the idea that they could be doing the things that they ought to be doing and not be happy. It's like doesn't even make sense. It's a disconnect.
Well, that also indicates that in our society we've abstracted the emotion away from its performative foundation. You know, and we treat happiness as if it's an abstraction that exists in and of itself. And there's foolishness in that. And you also pointed to something else that's very interesting. You know, when you ask people, it's very hard to ask people a question properly and get an answer that's reliable. It's very, very hard to do that. And psychologists have concentrated on doing that for decades. It's a whole field of endeavor. One of the things you discover if you do research into what people mean when they say that they just want to be happy is what they actually mean is they don't want to suffer. So you can imagine that there's two elements to happiness. One is not too much negative emotion, and the other is some positive emotion. And if you push people into a corner, they'll pick absence of negative emotion over presence of positive emotion every time, because pain is extraordinarily safe.
I love Jordan Peterson. I do love this guy. I do love this
When they say
guy.
they want to be happy means is that they want to be secure in their foundation, which is not at all the same thing as pursuing the hedonic pleasure that would be duplicable, say, with cocaine.
I have to interrupt because there's an election happening.
Oh, yes.
There's an election happening.
HQ has
Let's
called
see.
North Carolina for Donald Trump.
Yes!
A huge piece of news.
Let's go, guys.
Truly a must-win state,
We
in
need
my
this for his
opinion,
country.
North
Elon
Carolina
Musk
now
said it.
firmly in hand.
Everyone,
And
Tulsi
another
Gabbard said it.
Sort of victory, not only national victory, but even personal victory. They're also declaring Ted Cruz has won his Senate seat
Okay.
in Texas.
It doesn't affect
As
me,
we said
but
while Dennis was here,
cool.
Ted was actually kind of on the ropes a little bit in a very hard-fought campaign. But in these last weeks, I mean, he's done an enormous job down in Texas, an enormous job campaigning. A very smart politician, and he's retained his seat for a third term.
And most importantly, Jeremy, at least from your perspective, your only friend in the U.S. Senate remains in the U.S. Senate.
Not just the U.S. Senate, my only friend in government at any time. And so with that good news, we'll take a moment to tell you about our sponsors. We're so grateful to them. They made it possible for us to bring you the show live tonight outside of our paywall. And here's a little bit more about one of them. We'll be right back.
What do you guys think? What are you guys thinking? I'm thinking really good thoughts right now. On my thoughts, I don't know about your guys' thoughts, but my thoughts are Trump is gonna win this. But I mean, that's what I thought 4 years ago too. And we woke up and it was something else different. But I never really paid attention to an election like this. Like I've been, boom. And when you see all these guys like Robert F. Kennedy, who is a fucking awesome dude, who was an environmental attorney until he turned into politics because of the shit that's going on. Left wing, Democrat. Also Tulsi Gabbard, Democrat, who was in the election 4 years ago against Kamala, against Biden. You see them go to the Republican Party. That's not an easy thing to do, but they're doing it because it makes the most sense. It's like our party isn't the same anymore that it was 10 years ago. If you asked me 10 years ago, I would be a Democrat. But the coolest part about being a human is your feelings change. What? You're good? Hey, did you are you on that link that I sent you or no? Nothing. Are you keeping up with the election? What are you listening to? What are you listening to? Which kind? Is it live? You know it's election night. That doesn't mean anything. Every 30 minutes we get a new poll. Indiana, oh wait, I missed that. Kansas, we're down Kansas, but it's only 6%. How come third world countries can vote faster than us? Kentucky, Trump's taking Kentucky all day, 76. See, there's a difference. I've yet to see Wisconsin come up here ever since I seen that on X earlier. Sorry, guys. Ever since I seen that on X earlier, I have not.
Who says she never tells the truth?
In Massachusetts, why is Massachusetts at 9%?
She went on national
Maryland,
TV and they said, "Will you make any
4%.
religious
Get your
exemptions
votes
for
in.
abortion?" And she was like, "Nope.
Put your
nuns
votes
are gonna
in.
be aborting the
You
babies."
vote,
Like,
you
whoa.
scan it, it goes in,
The problem
or
with the Rust Belt
regardless,
is
just count the
the
fucking
Rust Belt
votes.
those 3 states have voted exactly the same since the 70s, haven't they? Has there been a single exception? Has there been a time where Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania didn't vote in lockstep with one another since we've been alive, except for...
That is a great question.
True.
But I'm trying to think of a situation in which the election was super close. So in 2016, obviously they went one way. In 2020, they went the other way.
Yeah.
In 2004, they actually went for Kerry, and it was Ohio that won the election for Bush. So when everything is this close, when everything is this tight, I mean. The thing is, when we talk about presidential history, and you'll say, is there a precedent for this? The sample size is just too small. I mean, that's the reality. They'll say, well, this is the first time this has happened in 20 years. Okay, fine. So that's like 5 election cycles. The sample size is super tiny.
There's not 180 baseball games a year.
Exactly.
Let's check in with Brent Buchanan.
So, Brent, tell us about life. Well, what's going on? Well, it looks as though the Sun Belt is locking up.
Babe, you should watch the Daily Wire.
I mean, it's calling Georgia
one that
obviously a little bit
I'm
early,
watching.
and Arizona really, really early, but it looks like those states are looking fairly good for Trump.
But
What do you
watch
make
the full
of,
Daily Wire thing.
The Rust Belt and the Sun Belt right now?
Well, let's talk about.
You're gonna watch my YouTube.
Because this ties back to something that I don't even know what time it is right now, but a few hours ago that we spoke of, and that's turnout potentially and likely being higher than 2020. So if we're looking at North Carolina specifically, in 2020, turnout was about 5.4 million in North Carolina. If you take the percent reporting now, add in those estimated votes remaining, it puts you at 5.8 million. So when we were looking at our turnout curve, we knew that once you got to about 5.6 or 7, that put it in somewhat Kamala territory. And then if you went beyond that, you almost had no clue what was going to happen. Well, now we actually have a clue what happens when you go above 2020 turnout, and it benefits Donald Trump. So let's look at a couple counties here. I want to start with Brunswick. And so this is a really strong reporting Republican county. And you can see here, let me show you the historical comparison. There's actually not that much difference. If anything, it was slightly closer. But this county actually, as of right now, has netted out 1,000 more votes for Donald Trump than last time, even though the margin's a little closer. And so I think this is really indicative of what happens when turnout goes above 2020 numbers. Let's zoom in here to Wake County, which is the seat of the state with Raleigh. And you can see here that Harris is doing a little bit better. Trump is doing a little bit worse. It's only reporting 75% right now. What's likely going to happen is
you can
that
tell
this
why
improves for Donald Trump in this final 25% that's coming in. And then if we come over here to Pitt County, so this county is about 30, let's see here, we'll go to the census data for a second. So it's 37% black on census. So it's for a state that is below that overall. This is a slightly more black county than the state as a whole. And then when we look at this historical comparison, what you'll see in Pitt is that this was a margin of about 9.4 for
Right,
Biden.
so there's a couple points.
And that moved
Slight.
to 5.6 margin
But
for Harris. And
we're
what's
still
really
gonna lose it.
is that it had already moved 3 points to the right between 16 and 20. And so when you start to put this math together and you see that these Republican counties are performing very well, and even if they don't perform at the same margin for Trump, they're actually netting out more votes into the overall count. And then you look at a place like Pitt County that, as you can see, is blue on the map, but it is less blue, and it is becoming less blue. And I think this is a really, really good example of this educational attainment realignment that's been happening in this country, where if 20 years ago you were a college grad, you were probably a Republican. 20 years ago you were a non-college grad, you were probably a Democrat. Those bases are beginning to shift. And as we look at that, what our experimental exit polling shows so far on our internals is that realignment among non-white voters is even more extreme than the continued shift that we see with white voters. So as we look at these 3 counties here, Brunswick, In the South, a very heavy Republican county, netting out more for Trump. Wake County, the rest of this reporting going to be better for Trump. And then Pitt County, this is the third election in a row with Donald Trump on the ballot, where his margin improves, and even his raw vote improves. Here you start to see how once we get into this explosive, crazy, wild, who knew we could go above 2020 in turnout? The answer is we're starting to see a trend that it is benefiting Donald Trump.
Who's turning out in large numbers? Is there a particular demographic?
We don't have that yet. We can look at some of these counties, and that's why I really like Pitt specifically here, because it is more black than the state as a whole. And if this was like 2020, if the numbers were coming back like that, I would say that I don't know why they would have called North
Trump,
Carolina.
baby, Trump.
Look at this as an example and say, okay.
I ain't scared to say it. No one should be.
North Carolina, despite the fact that it's only
no one should be scared. Trump.
Right now, because we're talking about 5.8+ million
you already know.
turnout, which is just incredible.
No reason to be.
So Brent,
It's 2024.
that people
We
are
need
pointing
him.
out is that it is a very good time for Trump, not just that North Carolina's been called, but that it's been called so early. Meaning that the patterns in data seem to be benefiting President Trump. The sort of theory of the electorate, which was
Trump,
that
baby.
a high turnout election was going to benefit
Elon, RFK,
obviously not
Joe Rogan.
And you're seeing this reflected in some of the data. I mean, the needle over at the New York Times, the all
Tulsi Gabbard. We got the whole Avengers. We don't got the Diddy party. We don't got the Diddy party. We got the Avengers, homie. Democrats going over to the Republican side. Not Megan Thee Stallion.
Basically, Brent, if you had to
not Cardi B. No. Real
Kamala Harris
people.
needs to win
Real
Pennsylvania,
people that
Michigan,
mean
and Wisconsin
something.
in order to win this election is if you had to ballpark this thing, that is the
Where's
most
the
likely
box at?
scenario at this point, is it not?
Yeah, once North Carolina's off the map, it puts her right into that quote blue wall that in 2020 is what won the election, more so even than Georgia and Arizona. It was going back to winning Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. And right now, as we're looking at Pennsylvania, you can see that it's a complete coin toss at this point. And what's fascinating is that we're likely to see massive turnout above 2020 for this state also. And so as we compare a place like Pennsylvania to North Carolina, where the increased turnout really benefited Donald Trump, we don't have enough vote in yet in Pennsylvania to say the same thing, but they're both experiencing increased turnout over 2020, but we're seeing slightly different results. I mean, if the theory was simply that more turnout is over 20 is better for Donald Trump, then we could go ahead and call Pennsylvania too. But as you can see on the Decision Desk HQ right here, win probability, it's a complete coin flip.
Well, Brent, really appreciate it. We'll get back to you very shortly with the latest updates. And thanks to our friends over at both PDSNet and at Lumen for their sponsorship of our program here tonight. So, yeah, lots of breaking news. Obviously, Senator Cruz has been declared the victor over there. That means that Republicans have probably a minimum of 52 seats in the United States Senate. It also means that Republicans are doing better than expected so far in the House. So there were serious questions about whether they're going to be able to retain the House majority. So far, it looks like at least a coin flip as to whether they're able to retain that House majority, which is actually better shape than a lot of people were expecting at this point in time. Again, for those who missed it, North Carolina has been called. The map is basically what you thought the map was going to be before this evening. New Hampshire's been called in favor of Kamala Harris. North Carolina has been called in favor of President Trump. The Georgia votes are still coming in, but at this point, you have to say that President Trump is, in fact, favored in Georgia. Arizona, he was leading pretty heavily in the early balloting anyway, so the chances are very good that he is going to win Arizona as well. That means that Kamala Harris right now has to win in the blue wall states. She needs to win all three of those blue wall states. That'd be Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. There's not enough data yet. There's some early Pennsylvania voting data that is coming in. They've got about 2.2 million votes counted there, 2.3 million votes counted there, according to the latest numbers. You're looking at a Kamala with a very slight advantage.
Very slight.
And now we're being joined by our friend Dr.
New
Phil.
Jersey.
Phil, nice to have you on the program.
Dr. Phil! Uh-oh.
He's speechless.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Are we properly connected? Okay.
Yeah, we'll keep working on getting this connection with Dr. Phil. We don't have audio yet. But so far, things are going better than we had hoped. We have the North Carolina win is the thing that I was the most worried about. So in the same way that Ben had his positive outlier, that if Trump won New Hampshire, he thought that would be like kind of the runaway indicator that we were going to have a runaway. Good night. To me, North Carolina was the obvious. Trump loses North Carolina, it just pretends terrible things. So having that off the table, huge. Having Ted Cruz pick up that seat, or hang on to his Senate seat in Texas, huge. The fact that we will almost certainly be able, as Republicans, to hold the Senate, absolutely huge. The House, we're
Guaranteed.
By the way, that's right. We're now guaranteed in the Senate.
You want a big piece of data? Here's a nice piece of data for you. Again, exit polling, grain of salt, giant grain of salt. CBS News exit poll in Michigan. Younger voters aged 18 to 29 are narrowly going for Trump.
Crazy. That is a crazy.
Unbelievable.
That's a crazy stat. Which and that would be a Gaza stat, right? That would be seriously that would be all of the left-wing insane people on the left who wouldn't vote for Kamala Harris because they think by some bizarre turn of the imagination that she's too pro-Israel. You have to be a psychotic nut job to think that Kamala Harris is too pro-Israel. But somehow they've come up with that
She's
one.
not.
I'm grateful to them for that. I hope that Jill Stein wins 1 million votes in the state of Michigan, that she and Cornel West just run away in that election.
But also be young men. I mean, young men might be.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that with regards to the increased turnout, too. If it's the same young men who are going back to church who are actually
we have the
turning
gender
up to
dynamics
vote.
on that?
So, yeah, no gender dynamics on that one yet. But you have to imagine, obviously, that you're talking about a heavy male turnout there. It turns out that there are no white dudes for Harris. There's just white dude for Harris. Doug Emhoff, maybe, technically.
If she keeps her mouth.
Honestly.
Stays in line, right?
Oh, yeah, no, I think the last thing Doug Emhoff wants is to be stuck in the White House with Kamala Harris for 4 years. I really think that he's tired of this.
That guy.
The New York Times, that needle, come on, needle. The needle currently has Donald Trump at a 70% chance of victory in the Electoral College. And
That guy, Kamala Harris's husband, is a fucking
in the
joke.
popular vote estimate. So there is
No one looks into him.
Donald Trump ends up winning both the popular and the electoral.
You guys hit women before.
Republican since 2004.
How do we feel about Virginia?
I was just going to say.
Slap Kamala.
62% of the vote is in. Trump is up 2%, and they're still calling it for Kamala.
Yeah, that should be investigated.
I would assume that all the counties that they have not yet counted are like Fairfax, like big Dem counties.
Just no, they're not. That's what I'm saying. Looking at the map, it's not what I.
Okay, so election expert Andrew Klavan is uncalling Virginia.
No, I'm not. I said I'm not a poll reader. I get it. I'm just telling you what I'm looking at.
I will say that MSNBC is already starting to rip on the Electoral College. That's a good indicator. Once they start yelling at the Electoral College, you know that things are not going amazingly well over there. What we are saying is something that was noted earlier on, which is a shift in favor of Kamala Harris in the suburbs, but mildly huge turnout for President Trump. Again, this is the magic of Trump. Okay, the thing that Trump can do that no other Republican candidate of my lifetime can do is bring out low propensity voters. Okay, the Mitt Romney plan in 2012 was bring out high propensity college white voters and get those people to vote in larger numbers for him than they voted for John McCain. And Donald Trump's plan was to abandon all those people and go get the farmers to vote for him. And as it turns out, that's actually his magic. He's like that.
And the Democrats.
And by the way, and Hispanics. Like, again, the Hispanic, we are watching a sea change, regardless of the final.
This is all true right now.
Some of the trend lines that you're seeing in this election are astonishing. I mean, Donald Trump winning, let's say, 20% of the black vote in Wisconsin.
Crazy.
Or you say Donald Trump winning 45% of the Hispanic vote. If the entire theory of Democratic politics since 2012 has been we cobble together minorities and single white ladies, and that is our coalition, and then you break minority strangleholds, what are they left with? I mean, as we move forward, they might be able to sneak one out, maybe eke one out. But what does that betide for the rest of their agenda? And do we think that they swivel more to the center, or do they move further away? By the way, Trump has just been announced as the winner of Iowa, so sad.
Hey, let's go.
No.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I don't have a gap yet.
There's only
I
12%
called it
of votes.
I called it a 10%.
Juggy, I got Juggy.
Donald Trump winning Iowa may be the political shocker.
No.
I'll tell you,
of the 2024 election.
the poll,
No.
that outlier poll that said Kamala was going to win Iowa, it did spook me. I don't know.
It was designed to spook.
That was the whole point of it, and it succeeded.
And people kept saying it was a respected poll, but in
We
fact,
knew he was going to win Iowa.
presidential elections.
Meanwhile,
It
Donald
saddens me that he won Illinois,
in the New York Times,
since that's where I'm from.
The needle.
the
needle.
magic needle.
Oh, fuck.
Come on, needle. He is slightly favored in Wisconsin at this point as well. So it's possible that my original map was right, except for New Hampshire.
Wisconsin. He's got to take Wisconsin.
But, now that I've lost New
Wisconsin, by the way, look it up on X. 30K votes they had to reevaluate. So that, to me, sounds like fraud.
Again, just to point out that the media narrative is not real. The Florida Puerto Rican vote Harris won the demographic 52-43 per the
That's-
Exodus, 52-43 among Puerto Ricans in Florida. Biden won that group 69-31. So it went from Dem plus 38 to Dem plus 9.
They thought it was
But
a
that's
funny
how he
joke.
wins all of
They
them.
thought it was a funny joke.
And now we're joined
Sick
by
of the garbage.
now we're joined by the host of Dr. Phil, Dr. Phil himself. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Dr. Phil.
Hey, good to see you guys. Things are getting pretty interesting, I understand. How's it looking to you guys over there?
I'm moving steadily from cautiously optimistic to openly optimistic.
Can you guys see Dr. Phil? Can you guys see Dr. Phil right now?
You can see him squirming.
How are you feeling about things?
Well, same way. I heard somebody earlier say they
We
were
gotta listen to
cautiously
Dr. Phil.
optimistic. So,
Dr.
I
Phil,
think
I
that
have to
kind of
ask.
describes.
I was at the MSG rally when none of us were expecting you to be there.
He was there.
over, 8 hours worth of speeches. And when you came out, I think it genuinely shocked the crowd. Not because we thought that you were...
Dr. Phil's an
or
OG.
something like that,
We
but
fucking
there-
love
there
Dr.
was
Phil.
so much
We
risk
love
to you
Dr.
coming to this
Phil.
point. You've been a huge figure in media for so many years. What pushed you over the edge?
Well,
What didn't push
I
anybody
wanted to
over
do
the edge,
something
really?
That woke people up, because I think this is
Woke people up.
Campaign. And when I came out, I said, look, I'm not here to endorse, just to endorse Donald Trump. I don't like everything he says. I don't like everything that he does. And I'm honest about that. I'm honest about that with him. But I don't like bullies. And I don't like the way people that vote for Donald Trump are being ostracized, canceled on the internet, attacked, and all of that. And I said, that's bullying. And people can say, well, Donald Trump's a bully. Well, you got to have an imbalance of power to be a bully. Otherwise, you're just in a fight or an argument. And I said, there's a big difference. And I wanted people to understand we've got to start having some civility to what's going on here. And I made it real clear. Whoever is elected president, we have to get behind. It's a bad look internationally if we don't support our president. And I won't like it if it doesn't go the way I want it to go, but that will be our president, and I won't like everything that either of the candidates says or does, but I'll support America's president. And I said
He's
one of the
being
most
biased.
important days
He knows
in
what
my
he...
life was 9/12/01. Not 9/11, but 9/12, because the morning after 9/11,
Exactly.
we
Everyone
woke
was
up and
together.
we were all Americans.
All Americans.
And I hope that we don't have to have a big catastrophe for us to have that feeling again.
We better fucking not,
And Dr.
because that's
Phil,
what it's going to come
one question
to.
for you is,
And we don't want that.
You really believe in individualism. That's something that ranks very high on your list.
We got Trump, Georgia, 38,
We are watching a major
Michigan,
political
3.
realignment
Michigan,
in
what's
real
taking
time
so
on
long,
a racial
Michigan?
basis. That this sort of stranglehold idea that the Democrats were going to win
The hell's
enormous,
taking so
overwhelming
long?
sums of minority voters
Jesus.
across the spectrum. That's just not true. The biggest stat of the night so far.
It doesn't take
is
that
Trump
long.
maybe
With all these
45%
early
of the
voters, all right, North
vote,
Carolina,
and up to 25%
Trump's
of
up,
black
whatever.
male voter, according to Kirsten Soltis.
What takes so
Sanders said,
long?
my friend, the pollster over at Echelon Insights, she's done some exit polling
It's the thing.
suggesting that black men, 23%.
Election day should be a
vote for
holiday
national
for
office.
everybody in
And
America.
what do
We
you
should
make
all
of this
vote,
political realignment?
and it should be done by the end of the
Well, I
day.
think you're saying exactly
Paper.
right, and I think it is a political realignment, because people are saying, look, I'm tired of people telling me that because
On
I'm
paper.
part of a demographically defined group, that I can't think for myself. And
There you go.
You've heard me talk very loud
Preach,
and
baby,
long about
preach.
the fact that we have to
Preach.
teach critical thinking in this country again. We've got to inspire people to be critical
Preach,
thinkers.
baby. Preach.
That's why I've spoken out so much about these ridiculous campus protest groups
These campus
that are
pro- I love
demonstrating
them.
on
I love
behalf
them,
of Hamas. These are terrorist
It's ridiculous.
groups. And
Ridiculous.
we're not teaching young people to be critical thinkers anymore, and we've got this.
That's what
half
pushed
of
people over the
America
edge. When you
that
got
are
college
truly
campuses getting
identity
burned down,
politics.
saying
People
fucking
are
kill the
smart enough
Jews,
to
and
think
Hamas
for
was
themselves.
right.
And we're seeing it
Eh.
now, where people are rebelling against this
You live in
expectation
America.
that because I'm black, or because I'm female, or
It just
because I'm a certain age, that I have to vote
just hurts.
with that block.
It's
That's
just
not true.
stupid.
People can think for themselves.
Peterson, look at Peterson.
Well, the Democrats are also, I suppose, running afoul of their own intersectional claims. It's like there are black men, and it isn't obvious that men are doing that well on the Democrat side, and that's because the Democrats don't really seem to like men. And so maybe it's like well, they've done everything they could, you might say, from an ideological perspective to attract the black vote, but they've abandoned the male vote, and maybe the black men are men first and black second from the intersectional perspective, or at least 23% of them seem to be considering that.
Well, it's an interesting prospect because gender is actually real, and while race isn't not real, it's not fixed.
Yeah.
So we're told that
It's not definitive.
It's not definitive. Yeah, we're told that gender is fluid, but it's actually race that over time is fluid.
Yeah.
Well, we know that
men are men.
Barack Obama is going to be very disappointed in black men because we know that he.
Yeah, you already know what he did.
Brothers.
Those naughty brothers.
Men.
I love Matt
Democrats
Walsh.
don't
If you guys
understand
haven't seen his movie, if you
there's
haven't
nothing
seen his
men capable of
movie,
being nagged.
oh my god, it was
And
great.
Barack Obama is literally
It's like
wagging
like
his finger in
Borat.
the faces of black men.
It's
you
like
need to get out there
Borat,
and
but
vote.
more
If you
real.
want to speak to men and motivate men, that's the very
Like
last
it is
way to
real,
do
like
it.
real
Sent
video.
Michelle to do that.
Yeah.
She then did, right? She got up there and
Yeah.
she lectured black men about how they were
That's right.
irresponsible and terrible.
That's
which, of course,
right, Jill.
is definitely what they want to hear.
That's right, Mama
from
G.
Michelle Obama. By the
I'm
way,
a J.
CNN is now
I'm a
reporting that
GG.
Harris has some warning signs in Michigan. She's underperforming Joe Biden in places like Washtenaw County, which is a very heavily
Oh
Democratic
look,
area.
Kentucky,
So,
80%
obviously,
votes are
as
down,
goes Michigan,
64%
so goes the
for
country.
Kentucky. All right, we got it.
Possible.
All right, Kentucky,
Fingers
Donald
crossed.
Trump's got
You know
it.
what's strange about the polling, though?
I
It's
think
very odd
I
about the
think
polling in terms
this
of black
is it's
voters,
looking good.
Is that Kamala Harris came out and she said that the brothers
We're in
were
Massachusetts,
supporting her
not so
because she had
good, but
recently
only
been in the
11%
barbershop.
votes are in.
And she made this
Why
statement
does it
about a
take
week
so
ago.
long to get votes
I
in?
did
Even
not
in
have the
third world
resources to fact
countries.
check it, though my gut instinct tells me Kamala Harris has never once in her entire life been in the barbershop.
This is ridiculous.
And it would seem that the hard numbers we're getting here suggest
The barbershop,
the
don't
brothers
get me started.
breaking, at least in a significant way, for President Trump.
And by the way,
What-
New York
what
Times
point-
Needle in Iowa, estimated margin, Trump up 9 in Iowa. So remember that time when he was supposed to lose by 3? That is an 11 to 12-point miss by Ann Seltzer in Iowa. And remember, that was being used as a bellwether to determine whether there was going to be extra turnout for her in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. So if he's winning Iowa,
Yeah, this
Emerson,
thing, all the
right, he had
Midwest people
Iowa
are the
plus
same,
nine. Emerson
huh?
also had Donald Trump winning all 3.
What about Illinois? Illinois is fucking. What's Illinois?
Let me
Fuck.
jump in here and let me jump in
That's
here.
why I
and
got the
get you
fuck
a
out of
couple
there.
calls from our desk here because Chris, you've got a couple of calls for us here.
Thank you, Dr. Phil. Merit TV now calling the state.
Hey, Hunt. How are you, man? We're playing zombies right now. Sorry, we're listening to Dr. Phil right now, though. Dr. Phil's talking. We can't interrupt Dr. Phil.
3 electoral college votes for Kamala Harris, and you see those numbers right there. Dr. Phil, I should also point out that North Carolina, we're getting really close to closing that one out. That one's leaning towards Trump at last report. We're getting really close to closing out Colorado, and at the top of the hour, which is now just 1 minute away.
Good to see you here, Hunt.
In Montana, Idaho, Nevada, most of Idaho.
Dr. Phil, dude, I fucking
Yeah, that's great.
the
And,
way
you
he
know,
stepped
guys,
up is
if,
great.
Ben, if we close out North Carolina for Trump soon, that can be a real building block
we've already called
in
it.
the March to 270. You've called North Carolina?
Yeah, we called it already. North Carolina's been called. So as far as we're concerned, we're not talking about North Carolina anymore. It's over. North Carolina is done. But basically, practically speaking, you take North Carolina off the table for Kamala Harris, and she has one path and one path only. That's the Rust Belt states. She has to win all 3 of them. And right now,
What if she wins all 3 but loses Virginia?
Well, I mean,
Yeah, right.
Well, right now there are some more CNN exit poll numbers again with the giant grain of salt. This is the by marital status. Kamala Harris is losing married voters 55 to 44. She's winning non-married voters by 55 to 41, which is actually shockingly not horrific. Yeah, you would have thought that was like a 25, 30 point.
Non-married.
Pushing this. Meanwhile, the gender gap definitely exists, but it is heavier, according to CNN, for males.
Next
than it
poll
is
is not
females.
for an
54
hour?
43 for Trump among males. It is 54
What
to
takes so
44
long in
among
this?
females for
This is the
Kamala
problem
Harris.
with
So,
states.
Again, this is going to be
The blue
if
states
Trump wins,
specifically.
it's because men showed up to vote.
The swing
That's
states.
really what this is about. Men
Wisconsin,
actually
I
showing
saw
up
they had
to
to
vote.
recount
kind of
30
going theory of the
ballots?
Democratic Party, that women are
30,000
high-propensity
ballots?
voters,
Not
men are
30,
low-propensity voters. They
30,000?
constituted the majority. Women have
That's
the majority
sketchy.
of
First of
people who
all,
vote in the
look it
last
up on
several election
X. Look it
cycles.
up on
Men
Google.
showing up
Google won't
en
show
masse
you
to
enough
vote
shit. Look
is
it
a-
up
is a
on X.
complete
There's a
shift in
video.
the
They had to
election.
recount
Can I just say, by the way,
30,000
that
ballots
we
that they
tend to,
didn't
when we talk
scan.
about this to sound like we're being very hard on women. I'm actually.
I'm not saying anything. I'm not.
I believe that it's a man's responsibility.
I'm not.
It's a man's responsibility.
For
to
YouTube
do
purposes,
things like
I am not.
And we happen to
proposing
live in this
anything, but
time
I
where
am
men have
proposing
essentially given
why
up so many of their
can't we have a
responsibilities.
holiday,
In part because they feel disenfranchised.
a holiday
That's
on
partly
election
an
day?
excuse.
Like
Men have
today
given up
should
their
be a
leadership role in the
holiday,
church, which is one of the reasons that
and we should
the
be
Church of
able
America
to
no
all
longer
vote.
taking the stands for tradition
And that's
decency
it.
in the way that it historically has. They've
Be
given up their
peaceful
responsibility
with
in the
one
household,
another.
which is something that the Kamala Harris,
That's
at
it.
least PACs aligned with
This-
Kamala Harris, have been trying to openly exploit.
And I'm not
and
gonna
hey,
say who,
ladies, just don't
but-
tell your loser idiot.
Yeah.
I'll say it. I'll say it. The left.
And they've
The
certainly
past
given
4
up
years,
their
we've been
responsibility-
so
their civic responsibility.
exactly.
You know,
Donald
you
Trump
don't-
in the office, 2024.
It used to be that
Absolutely,
one of the
Hunt.
backbones of the country was men engaging.
Good job. You're
in
good. You're a good
civic
kid.
Social groups.
Um,
And
Which
that
have
was-
largely collapsed. There's an update coming
We've
out
been
of,
more separated
the
than
RNC
ever
right now. Michael
in
Wadley,
this
chairman
past
of the
4
RNC,
years.
says there were potential shenanigans.
Then there
in
was COVID,
Pennsylvania,
but before
and the
that,
Republicans
shit,
just
life
scored a
was
legal
good,
victory.
dude.
According to Chairman Watley, Center County officials were planning
Under
to stop
Trump,
counting ballots throughout the
we
night.
were all
in
we were all
violation of
good.
state
We were all
law.
just people,
We,
and
the
I
RNC,
hope one
threatened
day
to sue.
we're just all
That was enough.
Americans,
Officials have
and we
agreed to
don't need
continue
another
to count
9/11
as
like that to
required.
happen.
Our attorneys will continue fighting to
Dr.
quickly
Phil was
eliminate
saying, we
issues
don't
at the
need
polls
another
as they arise.
tragic event to keep us
Well, speaking of
together. We
Pennsylvania,
just
our
need
friend
to
Ryan
be
Girdusky, formerly of
Americans.
CNN,
Have you ever been to Brazil?
He says that Lackawanna, Pennsylvania.
Have you ever been
which is
to
the
any
first
other
county
country,
in Pennsylvania
Japan or
that is
anything
near
like that? They're all
completion,
just Japanese.
That has shifted from a Biden
They're not
plus
like
8.4 to a
divided.
Harris plus 3. That is a 5.4 percentage.
We're the only
shift
country here that's
toward
fighting
President
each
Trump.
other.
Again, the trend lines,
Which
you
is
hate to
super
read trend
dope.
lines, but
Dumb.
I'm becoming
Super dumb.
nauseously optimistic, as Dr. Phil suggests.
I want to hear Dr. Phil, and then we
That's
can get
not
to
a bad
zombies.
place to be. And guys, I'm going to have to wrap out of here to talk to somebody. But before
I know he's gonna wrap
Matt
out.
Walsh, I just have to congratulate you
On his movie.
on your movie, Am I a Racist? A comedy to DEI for. What an absolute masterpiece!
I love Matt Walsh.
Congratulations on what a success with that movie. So thank you for that work and congratulations on the success.
Amen.
Thank you so much, and we are in fact paying all of our guests to say that. So if you're wondering.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
by the way,
I expect my $8 by the end of the night.
Dr. Phil, thanks for making time for us on this important night.
Well, thank you guys. We'll be in touch. Thanks so much.
Quick
That's
point to make
great.
on Texas. We can take it lightly that Senator Cruz won his third term in Texas.
That's a good movie,
Democrats
guys.
have $80 million.
That's a
in
funny
debt.
fucking
And
movie.
so the fact that they keep pouring money down rat holes in non-competitive states because they get a little bit over their skis is quite a good thing, because all those dollars could have gone to Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. So
That's
the fact that
exactly
they
right.
decided to spend it there instead is a good thing. The New York Times needle continues to steadily, slowly creep toward the right, meaning more toward President Trump, and it's entertaining to watch. And
Nebraska.
we're gonna have to at some point split screen what they're doing over at MSNBC
Maryland.
and just find out how they're
I want to
dealing
see.
with
I want
with
to
the
see.
emerging evening.
I want to see how MS.
The,
I want
the
to
New
see
York Times
that.
headline right now is Trump wins Florida and Texas. Other big prizes still out, so they're not saying
Yeah,
anything about
well, yeah,
North
dude.
Carolina yet. Although, again, very likely
What?
that it's going to
Why
win.
did you go to the hospital?
Moreno
Please
is
tell
up
me.
right now in
We're-
the
all
vote
our
in
prayer.
Ohio by about
My prayers
5
were with
percentage
you.
points in Ohio.
Honestly, I read that message.
Was that-
I just got home from
I'm
work.
looking at
I
the
was
New York Times right now.
sweaty.
In Pennsylvania, Bob Casey is up
I didn't.
by 2,
And
but
I
only
was
43%
just
of the vote
tired.
in, so that is
I
certainly
ate.
not as positive. Tammy
Yeah,
Baldwin
I
up
hope
by
you are
1.1,
good,
only
hon.
37% of the vote in.
Text
Again,
me.
we're in the
Don't put it
real
on this.
early hours here, and
You can-
guys,
you can send me
I
on
have
the
a feeling
Discord.
we may be in for a bit of a long night here. The
I'm
sort of
happy
hopes that-
you're
that
home.
Just because they move so
Good
damn
for you, man.
slowly in these Rust Belt states.
Send me a text.
Sean Trent,
Send me a
excellent
Discord.
poll analyst over at Real Clear Politics, says if Trump wins, which looks increasingly likely
I'll
with
pray
every
for
minute,
you
it's
as
going to be
well.
the most racially diverse Republican coalition.
'Cause
in
then
a
you're
very,
good. You're
very
good,
long
homie.
time.
When you mentioned we might be here for a long night, at least you're not saying we
I'm
might
sorry,
be
I'm
here for
so,
a long
like,
5 nights, because
multi-distracted
if-
right now,
if, let's
but
say Wisconsin goes the way
I've
it's
been
looking, even though it's early,
having anxiety
then we
actually
then we
over
know
this
tonight.
election.
I spoke with Senator
I really
Marcia
have.
Blackburn earlier on my show today, and Senator Blackburn's. I said,
But
"Are we
I'm
gonna be
happy to
doing
hear
weeks
that
of
you're
this?"
back
She
home.
said,
I'm
"Michael,
happy to
my
hear that you're
prediction
good.
is
That was
by
my
midnight
biggest
tonight, you're gonna
concern.
get to 270.
When you told me that, I was
And
like, "Are you good? Are
I
you?"
was skeptical at the
and you-
time, but it is increasingly
so,
looking
you told
like
me.
we
So So.
Very, very much could know the next president.
Oh,
tonight.
dude.
Well, the good news is that Joy Reid is saying that Florida has an extreme right-wing fascist government. She's well calibrated
right,
as always.
One
Joy
ear
Reid.
on, one ear off.
Well, aptly named Joy. She's so.
I had an
the
allergic
amount of joy
reaction
in the
the other
Democratic
day.
Party these days is truly
Another
off
day.
the charts.
Sorry.
It's
2 months ago.
Joy.
yeah, it's
And I didn't know what it was
I
from.
want to circle back to this idea, though, that
Turns out
We had to sue them.
I was checking out
Force
this
them to
house,
keep doing their
and I'm
legal
severely
their-
allergic to
threatened
mold.
to sue them in order to get them to
And
live up to their
Florida
legal
has this
obligations
different
to King
type of
County tonight.
mold.
Yeah.
I
They
didn't know
don't
existed.
care
And
about the
I'm
appearance of
older now,
impropriety.
right?
No.
Okay,
And I
they
didn't know I
certainly don't, and
exposed
think, again,
myself.
this goes
And
to a
guess
deeper
what? I
point here.
woke
So
up the
if
next
President
day.
Trump does pull it off, obviously it's the
What the
greatest
fuck?
story probably in the history of American
Whatever.
electoral politics.
I
Because
think
the
I
first time
continue
was
it.
fluky
I think I
and
continue
weird,
it.
and that was an amazing story. Him coming
I
all
woke
the way
up
back
the
to win
next
again,
day with a
only
fat
Grover
lip,
Cleveland,
and I'm like,
the
I've never
fame-
been allergic
Yeah,
to
and by the
anything
way,
in my
they didn't-
life.
they didn't try to
I've
throw
never been
Grover
allergic to
Cleveland into
dogs,
prison full
cats,
time.
peanuts,
Right.
nothing.
100%.
I woke up
I
the
think
next
we-
day
we
with
may
like
be
looking
in
at someone
danger of
punch
overlooking
me in the
actual
lip,
big story
right?
in the
Look
magic
at someone
of
punch
President
me in the
Trump,
lip.
and that is how
So
just unbelievably much
I-
the Democrats suck.
I'll tell you right now.
Truly, how much they suck.
I woke up the
I mean,
next
like,
and
they-
I had a
the fact
fat
that they
lip.
don't
I'm
go
like,
back
I
to
gotta go to
Trump,
work,
they
so I
have
went to
Donald Trump, who
work
they think of
to go
as
to
the
the railroad
richest
work.
environment. Like he's a
And everyone's
target.
making fun of me. They're
wanted
like,
to just- they
"Oh,
wanted
don't
to
let
be
your
desperate
girl
wanted
hit
it. They didn't
you."
want
Blah
him,
blah
they
blah.
didn't
I'm
want
like,
sex,
dude,
they
I don't
wanted
know.
Trump.
I
And they
literally
got-
told him like,
again, they
I
are
wish
just the
I
monkey's
knew.
paw.
I wish.
Every
I'm like,
time
I
you
wish
show
my
the
girl
monkey's
hit me
paw,
because
it comes through in the worst
I don't
possible
know
way, and
why
then
my
you-
lip
but
is like this.
I think that we ought to focus for just a minute.
3 hours
on how much they
later,
suck, because
my
we focus a
eyes
lot on
started
the
getting
president,
itchy,
really, like,
and I'm
as,
like, okay.
Their program, how bad it is.
Maybe 'cause
how
I'm
much of
in,
this is
like,
not a reaction about how wonderful
the
Trump
Florida
is, as much as it is just a reaction to
wildlife.
how terrible
I'm like,
they've been.
okay.
Joe Biden was a shit
I'm like,
president. Sorry to put it that
puffy.
way. He was. He's a terrible president. Kamala Harris.
And then
it was a terrible vice president. So yeah, again,
15 minutes later, my
I think
throat.
that half the story here
I couldn't
needs
breathe.
to be that, because what I would
Ambulance
love for the Democratic
came
Party
and pick me
self-correct.
up off the
It'd be
side of the
better for
highway.
country if the Democratic Party, instead of
I almost died. I almost died.
self-corrected and said, you know what, guys, we've
And
lost the thread here.
ever since
We
then,
need
it's
to
kind
start
of like it's
re-entering the realm
lingered.
of reason.
Like that whole month, like I had to like have an inhaler, and steroids,
a
and
huge portion of the black vote,
it's
and all
scary.
these things are happening.
So I stay
It's
away
because,
from,
you know, the
as
Democrats
anyone
haven't done
should,
anything to make
mold.
people's lives better.
Obviously, I
That's
got
the
my
basic
blood
thing you're
tested, but that
supposed to
took
be
like
doing,
2
and-
months.
And Trump understands that.
It
It's
took
a-
my
the
I got my
basic
blood
pitch is,
tested
I'm gonna
because
make
I had to
your
go to
life
work.
better, here's
Obviously, I
how.
gotta pay
And the
for all
Democrat
this
pitch is
fucking
always
shit. I gotta
just
pay for rent.
resentment
This is
and,
all me. I pay for
victimization,
everything.
and it's that emotional.
Besides my
The
wonderful,
question is,
you know,
who
second half, of course, but
would lead the
I pay.
Democratic
I don't get paid for
self-examination?
doing this.
The New York Times,
And,
the LA
um,
Times, the Washington Post, Harvard University, CBS.
Yeah, it was the
That's
first time I
problem.
saw my life
I think
flash
there is
before
a-
my
there
eyes. So
is
I'm
a
very
thing
sorry
that
to
can be
hear
done,
that
and it's
from
the
you,
top levels
Mason.
of the Democratic
I'm
Party. So
sorry.
what they showed in ousting Joe
'Cause
Biden, we all
it's-
called
I
it
know
oops,
how
it kinda
scary
was,
that
but
can be.
It kind of wasn't. Meaning that's how a functional party worked. They didn't like their nominee. The upper echelons of
I
the
was in
party
the
ousted
hospital
their
for
man,
like 5
and then they put
hours,
somebody
6
else in
hours.
because that's the upper echelons of their party. The job
Like,
of
let
the
me the
party
fuck
is to
outta
win
here.
elections. If you keep losing elections to Donald Trump, perhaps the upper echelons of the party might want
I
to take
just said
another
the bill
look
wasn't
at
worth
how
it.
things are going. By the way, here's an interesting exit poll out of
I
New
owe
York.
them,
So there have been some exit polls on the Jewish vote. Obviously, I have a bit of
I
a
owe
dog
them
in
money.
this particular fight. The current exit polls out of the state of New York have Donald Trump winning
You know, it wasn't my
43%
fault,
of the
of
Jewish vote in
course.
the state of New York. That is by far the most populous.
You can't blame it on the
Jewish state
apartment
in the
either.
country. I'm disappointed in the Jews who voted for, Kamala Harris. But then again,
Almost
I predicted
$1,500
that Trump's ceiling with the Jewish vote, just because
For
so few
just
Jews actually care
my
about
air
Judaism or
vents
Israel, was going
being
to be about
fucked.
40% anyway. So if Trump
Got 'em
approximates
cleaned,
anywhere in
though.
that
Got 'em
neighborhood, that's a
cleaned.
huge shift, considering that usually the Jews go
Me
like,
too, buddy.
70%
Me
for the
too.
Democrats in any possible election.
You know what pissed me
New York
off the
Times, by
worst?
the way, has now moved its needle.
Is when I got to
estimating
the
that
hospital,
President Trump is likely to
There's like a
actually
bunch
win
of
the
doctors
popular
around me,
vote.
and they're
Again,
like, "What are you
if he
allergic to?"
wins
I
the
said, "I
popular
don't
vote,
fucking
now
know."
you're in college.
And
If
this
he
guy
wins the
started
popular
stabbing
vote
my
in the
arm, and he
Electoral College,
missed
that's the
my
first time a
vein.
Republican
He
has won
missed my
both the
vein.
popular vote and
He's
the
in there
Electoral College
digging.
since
And then
2004. It has been 20 years.
and and then he pulled it
And at that
out,
point,
and I'm like, you
panic
fucking
has
asshole.
got
I'm
to
like,
be
you
setting
gonna
in
warn
for the
me?
Democratic Party, especially because they can't
There's
even
like
claim this is a
literally
low turnout
like
election. This is an
10
extraordinarily
other
high turnout
people.
election.
I think it was like a
Highest turnout
college
election ever is what this
people
is going
or
to end up
something.
being.
I don't know, but like, I was in this real hospital.
Is governed by its minority.
They wouldn't even let me move
The
myself over to my
radicals in
own
the
bed.
Democrat Party are the minority. They are not the most
Because
number of people.
I think the ambulance
now the
took
Democrat
care of it.
minorities are becoming Republicans, which is even better.
Ambulance gave me multiple
The
shots.
estimated
I
Trump
was like, okay, I
margin
can
of
breathe
victory
now,
for the-
kind
for
of
the
better.
New
I'm
York
like, I can
Times
move
right
myself
now,
over to my
they're
own
suggesting
bed.
Trump plus 1.8
No,
in Pennsylvania right now.
pick me up by the
49% of
sheet.
the vote counted.
Pick me up by the sheet.
That is.
By the way,
And I'm
are
like,
they, if you know,
We're like, what are you allergic to? I'm like, I don't
analyze
fucking
this?
know.
I have no clue. I have no clue how they're
Very
doing any of this
curious.
stuff.
I'll bet
But I'm
they
like,
are.
but I'm less
And
swollen
if they
now. I was
are,
in the ambulance for
it
20
actually
minutes.
adds
They
a little
shot
more
me up.
credibility, in my opinion. I'm
Like, I
sorry
took,
to
like-
say.
President Trump has won Montana, by the way.
They
so
put
that,
all the
I knew you were
stickers
waiting
on me
that.
and shit.
I knew you were waiting.
Well, we're waiting on.
both
We
the
are
Senate
waiting
look
on the Senate race in Montana.
And,
Isn't
that one's done. He's gonna. He's gonna.
She's
Oh,
got
yeah?
it. She's got it.
Can we throw up the current electoral map, because I think this is actually worth taking a moment
Hold on.
and seeing exactly where we stand right now. Look at that. It's there's nothing
Oh,
here that's
wow.
particularly surprising, but that is actually a very good thing. Lots of states are starting to get called. They're not going in directions that they're not
That's
defying
good.
wildly what our
Yes.
expectations were. This race
Just
was
take
always
your medicine,
most
as the doctors
likely
say.
to come down
Mason,
to
Mr.
what
Hunt.
happens in the Rust Belt. And it looks like that's exactly what's going to happen.
The betting markets
It's
for the
over.
moment have President
I
Trump
really
a
think-
heavy favorite. So, Polymarket has
mostly
President
country.
Trump at like an 80% favorite. Again, the numbers continue to move in President Trump's direction. If the theory of the Democrats was that high turnout favors the Democrats, they were totally wrong.
Yeah,
they
because
were totally wrong.
It was interesting what his name Brent was saying before, the pollster was saying before, that they were right up to a point and then not right.
Yeah.
They were right if it went higher than 2016, and then if it went higher than 2020, it was unknown territory, and it's guys, I guess, showing up.
You know, a friend of mine, a very good financial
Like I said,
professional,
I
a
went
very good
through it.
investor,
The
was pointing
thing is,
out to
I
me
never was
last
allergic to
week
anything in my
that
life.
He was feeling increasingly
And a
good
couple
about
months
the
ago,
Trump's
I was in
chances.
the fucking
Not
hospital.
because of the polls. You know, the polls were all over the place.
My
and
girlfriend
you had
showed up
that crazy guy
freaking the
with poll
fuck
that
out. I'm
worried us
like,
all so
dude,
much.
I don't
Not
know.
even
Like, my
because
throat
of
closed up.
Polymarket or any of the betting.
And I still went to work, and I was
financial
just taking
markets
regular
seemed
allergy
to be
medication.
pricing in a Trump victory. And
Yes, Mason.
Not only were the
But I
rich
only
people
say
putting
Hunt
money
'cause that's
there,
what your
but the
name
rich
is
people
on
were putting op-eds in
here.
the Washington Post, like Jeff Bezos' op-ed, decision not to endorse. That it
Mason.
seemed as though institutional
So, let me tell you.
financial interests, with a lot of information, much more
Just know what
information
you're
than
allergic
us,
to, and then look out
seemed
for it.
to-
I know
to
mine
see
is
a good
mold,
chance of
so
a Trump upset.
anyone,
Listen, the
no
minute that
one
Jim
should be
Cramer said
around
that it was
mold,
likely
so it's
that
a good
Harris was
thing,
gonna win, it was
actually.
over.
Guaranteed. Right? We knew
If
that.
you're
Should've
fucking
done
allergic
all
to
that.
peanuts and you eat a peanut
Throwing
butter and
money
jelly
into the market
sandwich, then
against
that's
Jim
just
Cramer
like
because no one has ever gone broke betting against him.
me. I'm
Most
26.
obvious pick
I
in the
haven't
entire
had.
world.
I've never been
So,
in an
again, as these
ambulance
results
for
continue
myself
to flow in,
for
it's
26
exactly
years.
what you probably
And then
would've
when I was
thought.
26 years
Point
old,
in time,
all of a
the
sudden,
Democrats had
all that shit started
a hell of a lot of
happening to
faith in
me,
North
and I'm at
Carolina,
work in the middle of
possibly flipping
nowhere.
Georgia. Remember, she's already doing worse
And
than
I had
Biden.
my
And she
boss
questioned how
standing
much
over
worse
me
she
with
does
an
than Biden.
EpiPen,
Remember,
and I got
Biden
into the
won
ambulance,
Georgia,
and I'm like,
he won
yeah, I
Arizona.
can't. I'm like,
He won a bunch
I
of,
can't
he won
breathe.
a bunch
And
of
they
states
stabbed me
that
with all
Trump
these
had won in
things,
2016.
and I could breathe
Those
again.
states are gradually coming off the table
And
for
then
Kamala
I'm
Harris
like,
at this point.
An
It's a
interesting
20-minute ride to the hospital, and
thought
I'm like,
experiment is, will the Democrats be doing
yeah, I
better
feel
now if
better.
they just kept-
And I get to the hospital, and
This is a
there's
great
like
question. It's a serious question,
20
really,
people
because
around me, and they're like,
where
what are you
she
allergic
is-
to? I
where
said,
she is
nothing.
picking up votes is in the
I've never been
suburbs,
allergic to
but where she's
anything.
lagging is with males. And it turns out, like, I thought an
And then
early
the
indicator in this election
asshole
that she had a
stabbed
massive
me,
problem on her
and I'm
hands
like,
was the Teamsters
yo,
Union. So
as
I
I'm
don't know if
talking
you
to
remember
like
this,
all
they
these
did a
doctors
poll
around
of the
me.
Teamsters Union members when it was Trump
And
versus
he was a fat ass. I remember he was a
and Biden
fat
was
ass
leading
guy,
Trump
like a
something like
fat ass
47 to
guy
45 or
nurse,
something.
and I'm like,
and then they did another poll.
you can't give a
after they
motherfucker.
flipped
I
out
literally told
Biden
him
in
like, you
favor
can't
of
give a
Kamala Harris. And
motherfucker a
suddenly,
fucking
Trump was
warning.
beating the-
That's what I told
beating
him.
the hell out of Kamala Harris, beating her like 60
And he,
to
guess
40
what? He
among
missed
the
my
Teamsters.
vein,
Why?
so he's
Because
like
guess what? Every Teamsters
digging
union-
in my skin.
And it turns out that it's not just that it's not they don't want a woman president. They don't want this woman president who seems
Anyways.
to scorn men. This is
Make long story short,
has been about how much they hate men. I hate
I'm like,
to break
yeah,
it to
hit my
everybody,
vein,
but
and hit my
watch
vein.
anything about this
I was
campaign.
getting an
It's not
IV
just
drip.
about
I had to
the
stay there
appeal
for
to single women.
4.5
It's about how much they
hours.
despise men. When they trot out
Specifically,
Doug Emhoff and say this guy is an example of masculinity, while he's allegedly beating
I was
women
cold,
and knocking
I
up
was
bananas.
wet.
And then meanwhile, they're suggesting that you're garbage if you're voting for Donald Trump. Or when they trot out Tim Walz as an example of masculinity, the assistant football coach who can't even properly use football terminology and who can't even control his limbs. He breaks into uncontrollable spasms
does,
every so
he
often.
does.
And his obnoxious wife, turn the page, turn the... Like, could
Turn
you
the
have found a more
page.
obnoxious group of human beings to set upon the United States? Joe Biden is many things. Senile, horrible
well, that's
at his
easy
job,
to avoid. Avoid
obnoxious.
that.
He's actually less obnoxious
Avoid
now
it.
that he's senile than he was before he was senile, and he's certainly less obnoxious.
And at
than
least
this
you're
one.
young and you
I
know
think
that.
Biden probably will
I'm
be doing
26
better,
years
for all
old,
the
and I
reasons
guess
you
I'm
point out,
allergic
which
to
means
mold.
that
Weird,
Oh,
right?
Tim is so
Weird
fun,
thing.
dude.
maybe one of
Anyways,
the-
I'm glad you're okay.
The most
That's never a good experience.
Political,
Just
strategic
stay away
decision
from that
made
shit.
in modern
Pollen or
times was
pollen?
for Biden
Pollen,
to challenge Trump to a debate.
just take a Zyrtec when it's
before
during
the
the
convention, because
spring.
if he hadn't done that, then he's still in there.
Yes,
And
was
soap
it
with
Biden who
perfume.
challenged
Don't
Trump,
use
or was it
shitty
the
soap.
Democrat apparatus?
Use good
Yeah,
soap.
I think
I'll
we
send you
better
some
find
good
out or
soaps.
let people know what we
Like
know already.
Dr. Squatch.
What's so disturbing to me
anything
about
natural,
this issue of men
really.
is the
Natural.
closing pitch that you saw the Democrats make to young men,
Yes.
which was essentially, here's your weed
You don't
and
need
your
no
porn,
perfume
go
anyway.
have your
It's
little
disgusting.
pleasure
Yes,
palette.
100%.
Cologne.
And that if that
I
had
use
worked,
cologne.
that would have been the most demoralizing
fine
thing,
with
I think,
cologne.
for the future of the next generation. And part of what I am actually pretty optimistic
I'll be right back,
about
guys.
is that
Let me know
young
what I
men
missed.
seem to really reject that cynical play for their vote. I mean, these are
I really gotta
this is
keep
the
up with
first
this stuff.
generation of young men that we
So
have
let's
seen
get
that
off
are
the
more
allergic
religious
topic.
than
Yeah,
young
can we-
women.
can
It's
we-
the
can
first
we do
that
that
we've
for a
seen
second,
that
Mason?
are more pro-life
I am
than
very
boomer
happy,
men,
though,
than
that
Gen
you were
X
good.
men. So
Because I was just trying
that
to relate
alone
a
gives
couple
me a lot
months
of
ago.
hope.
I went
Also,
through that same
men
shit.
don't want
And
to
my throat closed
be
up. I
told
couldn't
that
breathe.
their
I don't know what it was like for you,
priority
homie,
is porn
but
and pot. Even if they're
shit,
potheads
dude.
and they look at porn
I was
every day,
fucked.
they're probably at some level ashamed of that fact.
Yeah.
They don't want that
Pretty
to be
much
their
12
identity.
hours.
And you know, even just generationally, there's only so
More
long
than
people
that.
live without meaning. You know, this is
3
they don't
days.
really
Hey,
save us from
zombies,
life
no,
without
fuck
meaning.
you.
Our bodies don't mean anything. You know, how can you even say that to someone? Your body has no valence as a spiritual entity. That you're born a man, but you have no manly responsibilities. You're born a woman, but you have no womanly role. I mean, who can live like that?
You're born a woman, and you may not be one. It's beyond that.
It was God's mistake.
But they've done something that's truly amazing with single women, which is that they've, in order to overcome that spiritual emptiness, they've actually treated abortion as a sacrament.
Yes.
Right. It's not like pornography. So for young men, it's deeply insulting because no one thinks pornography is a sacrament. They just know that it's a vice. Everyone knows it's a vice. You like it, you don't like it, it's a vice. Everyone knows it's a vice. Praying to penance not a vice is silly. Everyone knows it. Men feel like clear. Abortion also is a vice, but it's been treated as a sacrament. Why? Because what it is a sacrifice you make on behalf of your own individuality. That's the thing that they've sold to a bunch of young women. I think it's a horrifying, I think it's a terrible sales point for every possible reason, but it's a sales point. It is not true for young men. If you run a commercial to young men and you suggest that, young men are going to be stopped from masturbating to pornography, which is they ran a literal commercial along these lines.
Yes.
That there will be a Republican legislator who takes away your phone and stops you.
It's
I feel like 80% of the public might be on the side of the guy taking away your phone and stopping you.
Especially the men. The men who are addicted to porn. They would say, thank you. All right, thanks, actually. I'm glad I can't control myself.
Right, and that's not even a case for making things illegal. That's just a case for what people think of the
How
activity.
they
Nobody
do it,
thinks the activity is like an affirmative good. Like it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And so for Democrats to paint that as like the essence of the human experience for males, will deprive you of the meaning of being a husband. We'll deprive you of the meaning of being a father. We'll deprive you of the meaning of being a provider. We'll deprive you of the meaning of being a defender of your home. But you can really jack off a lot. That's the thing that we're training. What man in his heart feels like what a great message.
Speaking of vice, though, the biggest surprise result so far for me tonight, and I say this with special joy as an owner and founder of Mayflower Cigar, which is now competing with the Devil's Lettuce in a lot of markets.
Not in Florida where it's
not
illegal.
In Florida.
That's right.
I thought they were going to vote to legalize the sin spinach throughout the state, and I'm actually floored. That's the only big surprise to me.
Well, because the voters there can look at where it's been, like I said before, it's about making your life better. You can look at where it's been legalized, marijuana, or decriminalized all across the country. It has demonstrably made those communities worse.
Yes.
Anyone who's done any traveling can see this. You can smell it. And I say this as someone who I admit that I was in favor of weed legalization only like 2 or 3 years ago, because I bought a lot of the arguments that, well, it's not much worse than alcohol. I don't particularly like it, but it doesn't. But then they do it, and you go around to these communities, and they're just completely consumed by this stuff. It has obviously made everyone's life worse, especially the people who actually do it.
There's something else that's happening in Florida, too, which is the Republicans who moved there are saying no. You're not opening our you try to get your foot in the door, we will cut off your foot. Like, no. The answer is no.
This is so new. I want you to know, 40 years ago, when I began radio, I asked my audience, which has always been largely conservative,
the weed thing.
would you rather catch your teenage child smoking a cigarette or a joint?
Joint.
Everyone said joint. I said cigarette. And it was one of the only times where I knew 90% of my audience disagreed with me.
Yeah.
But I mean, they still respected me and all that, but they just thought I'd lost my mind on that issue. I was right then, and I am right today.
Yeah.
It is so awful, marijuana. The damage that it
No,
does
it's really not.
to the human spirit. The cigarette does no damage to the human spirit. 1/3 of
I disagree
cigarette
with
smokers
this.
will die prematurely, according to the American Lung Association. That is sad. But I rather gamble on my child 40 years from now being the 1 out of 3
I quit
to
weed.
have lung cancer than losing his spirit, his energy, his drive, his mind
I quit
at
weed.
18.
Yeah.
And so
Just for
here's
the
the
record.
latest update. So
Thank
according to
you.
Nate
I am
Cohn, chief
amazing.
political analyst for the New York Times, who does a really good job, he says it's still very early in Pennsylvania, but in the first few counties where voting is complete, along with hundreds of completed precincts across the state, Trump is running ever so slightly better than he needs to win at this point in time.
Which state is this?
That's Pennsylvania. That's in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
and right now, the New York Times is estimating in a variety of states that Trump is likely to win. They're estimating that he's likely to win Wisconsin. They're estimating that he's likely to win Michigan. Their estimated margin of victory right now in Wisconsin is 1.4 in favor of Trump. That has been moving up steadily. The estimated margin for victory, the New York Times is currently estimating in Pennsylvania, is Trump plus 1.9, which is not an insignificant lead.
Wow.
And again, the numbers are moving in Trump's favor.
By the way,
it's too early to get super duper excited. You'll see the big smile break out on my face when we start to get really, really excited. And then, of course, we have a moral obligation to show our friends over on MSNBC and revel in their misfortune. But the
What percentage of votes in Pennsylvania counted?
so right now, Pennsylvania has counted approximately 54% of the vote. In Wisconsin, we're currently at 48% of the vote. In Michigan, we are currently at 21% of the vote.
Okay.
Of the 3 states, the New York Times is estimating the biggest lead for Trump in Michigan at 2.1%. So again, the numbers are the trends. Still early. It's only 9:22 Central Time. By midnight, we're going to know a lot.
But you're seeing 2.1 for Trump in Michigan?
That is their estimate right now.
Wow.
For his estimated margin of victory, 2.1%.
What are you looking at?
No, I guess I'm looking at an outdated map.
Yeah, you need to reload it. Meanwhile, they're putting Trump right on the verge of a lean R in Michigan. They're right on the verge of lean R in Pennsylvania. Right on the verge of lean R in Wisconsin. So if the numbers continue to come in the way that they're coming in for President Trump, he's going to be the president of the United States.
So here's one that I'm speculating on. I'd love your input. If he does win, what will they say is the reason?
So they're going to blame it on the American people. They've run out of money. So no, really, this is.
I agree.
So
I agree.
What? They will what?
They will blame it on the American
blame it on
people.
us.
So
Right now, he's got the chance
Toxic
to win the popular vote.
masculinity, I say.
Yes, right. No, that's right. You're exactly right. So they've run out of things to blame except for the American people. So they tried social media in 2016 and it failed. And they tried the Russians in 2016 and it failed. And then in 2020, they said it was the revenge of the American people. The normies are back. Okay, well, we're going to cut right here to Senator Ted Cruz. He's giving his victory speech. I was campaigning with him 2 days ago, so I feel a moral obligation to give Ted his moment in the sun. Ted ran a great race here, pulled it out against Colin Alvarez. Let's go live to him.
A mandate from the people of Texas. And let me be crystal clear about what that mandate means. First, we must secure the border.
Absolutely.
Not with empty promises, but with concrete and steel and law and order, and with the unshakable resolve from knowing we are protecting those we love. The cartels who poison our communities, the traffickers who prey on the innocent, their days are numbered. Second, we must unleash Texas energy. The answer to America's energy needs
probably
isn't
just YouTube.
Venezuelans' oil fields or the
YouTube?
Ayatollah in Iran. But rather it is right here in Texas, in the Permian Basin, and throughout the state of Texas. We will drill. We will frack. We will produce and we will lead the entire world. And we will never again let foreign dictators hold American energy independence hostage. Third, we must defend our God-given rights. Not some of them, not most of them, but all of them. The right to speak truth in an age of enforced lies. The right to worship the Lord God Almighty with all of our heart, mind, and soul without government getting in the way. And the right to protect our families without asking bureaucrats for permission. But above all, this mandate means fighting.
Alrighty, folks, we are back. That is Senator Ted Cruz, who has won his race in Texas for a third consecutive term. Again, we are very thankful for tonight's sponsors. We're going to take a moment to tell you about them right now.
What?
And then we will be right back with more breaking results.
If there's one thing we can all agree on this election season, it's that taxes are terrible. That's why we've...
Okay. Come on, how do I get over there? 30 seconds. Right here? I'm here.
Now or never, Alpha.
Easy. Everyone gets a chance to die. What is that?
What do you want me to do? I was there. How? I didn't die. Son of a bitch. Nebraska only 18. What taking so long? This is not America. We should get our 5%. Really? Jesus Christ! With all the early voting and the mail-in ballots, you should have 1%. New Jersey. That's crazy.
Welcome to Liberty Falls. Population, well, less than...
I love Matt Walsh. Love his movie. I don't think you can watch my screen from the PS5. I can share screen with you like we did last time. You don't have to like download it. Well, you bought it. Oh. We can play together now.
Never been so glad to see backup arrive. Hell, lucky I'm still in one piece. I need you to look for survivors, subdue any threats. Help me save this town. Copy. Listen up. We've got 3 scientists unaccounted for, last seen in town. Locating and extracting them is now your top priority.
Okay.
Eat a bullet.
Sorry you came here yet. Well, if anyone had to show up, I'm glad it was you.
Very interesting. So this is how a gambling addiction starts. Well, look who has a new shit-kicking primary. When in doubt, off with their hand.
Okay. Well, let me know what you want me to do. I'll let you take over. I'll let you take over, Mason. You can join the party. Why do I get double points when there's no one around? See, that's how they get ya! What does this do? What does it do? What does it do? I don't know what it does. Yeah, that door or okay. Yeah, I want to upgrade. The Theo Von? He's gonna kill me! He gonna kill me! Need Jug. Always need Jug. Alright. Okay. Jug time. Always need Jug. Always need Jug. Pro rule number 1.
Squash whatever the hell just popped out of that corpse. One ugly bug KIA. Dr. Billy Tier. My favorite egghead. Not just book smart, but street smart.
Oh, you're fasting. Eat a bullet. Max ammo.
Okay. Mason, I hear you. I hear you. True. True story.
Face your problems head on, I guess.
You can. Mason, you can play it if I let you share screen. Just like last time. They're not. Well, let me know. You want? Well, we can't play together, but you can take over from me. My bad. I'm in the zone.
One and done.
I'll let you play it for me if you want. I'll let you play a game. Where are you? Where are you at? There's you, right? There's you, right? Here, Untold. Which one are you? Untold Rule? Just say it. After this, here's the next game. Just say it. Say the word. What's your gamer tag again? It's Untold or... I didn't think it was that. Yeah, okay, it is that. Alright, next game's yours. How's that sound? Next game's yours. Next game's yours. I'm out of ammo. I am out of ammo. Alright, good. Ammo. We can get ammo now. Alright, your next game, Mason. I was saying, this thing automatic? Why are there so many chick zombies? Alright, next game's you, homie. I didn't see your text, but next game's you. Alright. Oh, that's not your text. Next game's you. That didn't work. Oh. Jesus Christ. Oh, good night, man. I was gonna say you got next game, Mason. I'm sorry, man. Good night, homie. Hope you feel better.
Using smoke. Always aim for the nothing. They should be paying me. I didn't get to do much of this in college, but it's party time.
Okay, tomorrow, yes.
Got a one-way ticket back to base with your name on it.
They never learn. Come, fucking working. Nazir calling for pickup. Anyone read me?
Prepare for exfil. Marking site.
I'm starting to lose count.
Seconds on the clock, Alpha. Move it.
Working on my jawline.
Alpha, in or out?
Alright, so let's take a break here. Nebraska. It looks like most of the country is red. Trump's gonna win. It's only 5% though. Completely different. Agreed. I'm gonna pee and decide if I want to do campaign. 'Cause I really just want to see how this election goes. I really hope I don't go to sleep thinking that we're winning and then wake up and we're not. Can't be like last election. Right? Right? The last election, we all thought he was going to win because it's sleepy Joe Biden, right? But he didn't. It was very important. Crazy. Uh-oh, it's a lag, it's a lag. Mikey. Just temporary, just temporary. That's right, like my story. They did, baby. Trump's up with those folks. Trump's up with those folks. You get that? Oh, that is my homie. Jesus. Guys, I'm trying to go stealth again. It's a hard mission. It's like the hardest mission ever.
All night long is this exit poll from CNN showing Donald Trump walloping Kamala Harris with Hispanic voters in Michigan 60-35, which is just
amazing.
I mean, to put it technically, I believe the term is batshit lunacy. That's insane. What we're watching, if these numbers are anything close to reality, we're watching a massive political realignment happen right before our eyes.
Wait, another example of how this is starting to have 2016 turnout because, or at least margins, not turnout, because we're way over even 2020 turnout at this point. But Eaton County here was +1 for Trump.
All right, Alex.
But it was +5 for Trump.
Mason, sorry, Mason.
Now back to +5 in Eaton County.
Wow, wow, wow. By the way, Ted Cruz did win Latino voters outright.
I think we are back in stealth.
2018 by 29 points.
Well, because he was running against that Hispanic Beto O'Rourke.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, Brent, really appreciate the insight. I'm sure we'll be coming back to you in very short order. Our election map coverage, of course, is made possible by our sponsors over at Lumen. Hack your metabolism with one simple device. Understand your body more with Lumen. So, yeah, guys, I mean, it's an astonishing result, what we're watching in real time. Now, listen, these margins are still really, really close. I mean, we'll see. This is all estimated.
Maybe I should go back to zombies.
Getting happy off the New York Times.
Should I go back to zombies, Mason?
And when they say that there is, say, a 64% chance...
I think I should go back to zombies. I'm thinking.
Chance it goes the other way. Maybe remember
I think I should.
the needle for Hillary Clinton when it was 99% pro-Hillary. Now it's obviously later in the election.
I think I should go back to zombies. This is a hard mission.
Has also always been, basically always moved in one direction from the top of the night to now, and it is now pretty solidly in the likely Trump wins camp. Nate Cohn at the New York Times came out and said about 25, 30 minutes ago, for the first time that declare it is our opinion that it's likely that Trump wins.
Look at those Senate races, by the way. Currently, Dave McCormick is in fact leading Bob Casey by almost 100,000 votes. Again, Pennsylvania does not look like, if the trend continues, Pennsylvania does not look like it's going to be.
Oh, we're stealthy. Zombies, back to zombies? Okay. We'll try it one more time. We're in stealth. We're in stealth.
Rogers is supposed to be leading Alyssa Slotkin in Michigan. By the way, if Mike Rogers makes 55, Mike Rogers makes 55.
Finger to the left.
That's risky. Mike Rogers, because he spent so much of the time trailing. Right now, he's about 50,000, 60,000 votes on Alyssa Slotkin in Michigan. In Wisconsin, Eric Houghdey.
I wouldn't take that shot.
20,000 votes or so on Tammy Bald with 65% of the vote in. Now, got to give a shout out to the worst candidate of the cycle, our girl Carrie Lake over in Arizona, who's just getting destroyed by Ruben Gallego in a state.
Multiple hostiles to your left.
Which, you know, again, moral of the story, gentlemen, do not pick bad candidates for higher office. It turns out that when you pick good candidates, you're better. When you pick not great candidates,
Well, speaking of good,
كما تشاء.
To your left.
Senator, thanks for being with us.
Let's move.
You started off this election in a tough race, what I believe became the most expensive Senate race in the country this cycle. And as recently as 2 years ago, facing Bill Clinton, you put in an enormous effort to win. And
I think I did a good job.
Bomb out.
We gotta go back.
Roger.
On the early results, I think we've got a real shot at it. But, you know, look, I expect, I think the odds are looking very good.
We did good. We did it.
Good stuff. Okay, guys, come on.
A friend of mine, you know what we want. A friend of mine just bought a subscription about 25 minutes ago. He felt it was now safe enough territory that it was worth the $50 or whatever in order to watch him at least on a free trial.
This is like, when can you start playing Christmas music? It seems like the answer may be tonight.
MS3
In combat. What combat?
Again, the numbers continue to come in favor of President Trump. He is currently up by approximately 60,000 votes. In Wisconsin, he is currently up by, at last count, 170,000 votes. In Pennsylvania, and he is currently up in Michigan by somewhere on the order of 116,000 votes.
Interestingly enough, both Pennsylvania and Michigan may be the two states in the country the most impacted.
Alright, whatever. We'll go talk to this guy.
Yes. But you, by the way, one great stat. Here's a great stat for you. You ready for this? Yes.
Oh, I did that. Check.
The Biden administration, because they're incompetent and horrifying at everything, and because Kamala Harris is incompetent and horrifying at everything, they've achieved the signal feat of alienating both Jews and Muslims.
Yes.
Wow. It looks very much as the Detroit Free Press reporter Niraj Wariku reports that Kamala Harris will not win without an
Diesel 2-1, ready to boom and zoom.
+% Muslim. That Biden won with 88% of the vote 4 years ago, and that vote is instead going to the best Jew of all, Joe Stein.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's
this is actually something
you can't be psychotic enough for the psychotic. You stupid ass.
Well, this is also there's another point here, which is that the war is great in
I'll cover you where I can.
Keep wonderful, but it's terrible in practice for every single person involved. And so, in Pennsylvania, you have a large Jewish population who's rightly outraged about what happened. And I suspect that in places like Michigan, you have people who are outraged that the people actually dying in the war are their kin. And what they would like to see is some kind of American leadership that helps, well, A, that could have prevented this, which you had in Donald Trump, to his credit, or could bring this to an end, which I think you will also have.
You know, when I was at MSG, I saw us sitting 40 feet away from people, 40 feet away from each other.
Well, we didn't really talk.
Just across the way, and the guy is holding up an Israel flag. Yeah. It's so funny. They're so close to each other.
Okay.
Did one of them get tricked or something? I think no. It is actually
How close together were they?
They were pretty close.
That's like the width of the street.
They're roughly the river to the sea.
Tangential, you know, we've got to talk about this yo boy on the situation that's going. I mean, like this Latino vote that has, if this turns out to be the actual result, that itself, along with perhaps the shift to black will represent something so significant. And what's crazy to me, and I'm only even now in real time coming to realize this, is really what this represents is that Latinos are a symbol.
The fuck?
Right. I mean, basically what we're saying, and this is true also of the, you know, hijab-wearing woman and the Jew at the MSG rally, and all of these different people that we took, again, we've said this a million times, so we don't have to reiterate it, but Trump is imperfect, and yet he represents a certain bullish Americanism.
I'm not going back up there.
And one of the things that has come into question.
Mortar strike available.
Whenever you're ready, Case, we'll head back to the layup. You can have the honor of informing Gladney in person.
Well, speaking of assimilation, Michael Knowles is going to leave this broadcast and go over to Timcast. Our friend Tim Pool is broadcasting live from EWHQ, and Michael is no longer going to be a member of this team.
Reassimilate.
He will reassimilate
like that
into that.
And I will cease to be an Italian and become a Hispanic.
I've been waiting. Like in that one movie.
Like in that movie, actually. During the 2016 election.
That's right.
That yo voy a hablar con Tim Pool. Adios, amigos.
You get one of those Miller Black hats.
You know why this is, honest to God? Because Donald Trump, they're always calling him a racist.
Hold on. Look at this shot.
Look at how good.
Look at Michael walk.
This is movie making. Wow.
Look how beautiful our studio is.
Hello, everybody. Do you realize how close these people are to us? I had no idea. It seemed like they were in a completely different room. Unbelievable. Oh my God, this is big. Last time when we were doing this in 2016, we were in Jeremy's broom closet, where there was mold, there were rats scurrying about. Now this is big, and it's all because of the Daily Wire Plus members. We really appreciate you. If you haven't joined yet, now is the time to do it. No one's quite popping champagne, but everyone's getting a little excited, and here we are. Is this? Oh, my man! Don't tempt me. There, the Churchill is magnificent of the Mayflower cigars. I'm not ready to light them up yet. Are you guys celebrating yet? Oh, hey, what's going on? Are we? Did someone just put a little?
Absolutely.
Yes. Do you have a glass?
I could use a glass.
Where did the glasses
Where are the
go?
glasses?
Are the glasses back there?
Tibby.
The wonderful people at the Daily Wire brought in a bunch of fresh glasses for this delicious Kentucky bourbon that I insist you partake.
If you look, I was going to wait to celebrate, but that was before Tim brought out like a $2,000 bottle.
Well, you might as well light up a cigar while you're at it.
I'm tempted to do it.
You look great, by the way. You look great.
Thank you.
look
He looks all right. Dapper is the word we use.
Okay. This is my Mayflower Cigars smoking jacket, which is sold out now, so no one can get it, unfortunately. But we're doing it with Shepherd's, which is the men's clothing company that is owned in part by Harrison Butker. And I just feel that the right now, it feels good. I don't want to get out in front of my skis. It feels good though.
I hear you. No, I'm there with you. Can I get a cigar?
You can.
Oh
Especially
my
you.
Well, I'm just
My,
asking. Listen,
look
I'll take
at
what everyone's like.
man.
It's the art of the deal. I was asked earlier.
The light, the dark, the big, the small.
What's the difference? I'll get one of the light ones.
The light one is the Mayflower Dawn. Is it dawn in America?
Get up
What is
and
the
get it.
Mayflower dusk?
You
You
expect me to
clearly don't
deliver
watch
it to
this
you?
podcast because I do, and I know the names
That's
and the smoke.
Did you want to advertise it instead?
Yeah, that's what we're waiting on something to celebrate officially.
I'm so ashamed that we let him not only go over there, but take us all on that journey of hearing him present the cigars.
If I didn't know that company, I'd be so upset right now. So yeah, things are continue to go well. It's a good night. It's a so far, God willing, it is an excellent evening, and the Senate races are continuing to look good.
Oh, this is back at base.
Near about 165
Bruh.
seats that are going to be retained. About 110 for the Democrats, and Democrats need about 43 in order to take the House. They've won 4 so far. Republicans need about 27.
Need something?
2, so it's still very early for a lot of the House races, but as
Impressive. Now that's out of the way. If you're ready to move on that palace, I'll notify my men. We go in now, we go in with what we have. You sure? I'll be right here. What do you have in mind? Cheers.
We got California. Obviously, oh, this is not Senator. We're doing dumb shit now. One more good game of zombies. Why not? For Mason. For Mason. Crypto. Jesus Christ, I got back in crypto. You heard? It's my last game.
Security chief to new arrivals.
It's been a long game
Miss
now.
you sooner, but welcome just the same. I'm in the mansion, command center. Injured, but intact. Most everyone else is, well, you've got eyes. Look, we need to get this situation under control ASAP. Be ready for anything. Hi, Dusty. Sounds like getting rowdy. Alpha, search the area. We've got 3 Janus Science personnel missing. Their knowledge is critical to mission success. We take care of our own.
Throwing Semtex. When in doubt, off with their heads.
Insta-kill.
That takes me back.
You know, the people who lived here trusted us. We failed them, and I can't even explain how.
Oh, come on. Just give me something good, please. I can do some real damage with this one.
Max armor.
Where were these when I was a recruit? Luck favors me today, Lord Worms. Oh, you're fasting. Eat a bullet.
Fuck, already?
Semtex thrown.
Alright. Oh, they actually hit that theme in the beginning. Alright, we're gonna run it back. We're gonna run it back. I'm not gonna hit that thing in the beginning. Obviously, that screwed it all up. Okay, New York. That's the city. What's wrong with New York, huh?
When I campaigned with McCormick, we did one particular event in somebody's backyard, a bunch of Jews there. cared about Israel. They were fired up. There was one lady who's like, listen, I don't know if I can
good,
pull the
it's
trigger
good.
for Trump just because of all his various excesses and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, you don't have a choice. You need to pull the trigger for Trump. And I think that that is coming out loud and clear right now. Guys, I'll tell you, the number of friends that I have in Israel who have been texting me all day long, asking me if I thought Trump was going to win. And I was like, listen, I'm cautiously optimistic. I think he's going to win. Like, so there was a poll in Israel of who they wanted to win, and that poll found that by a margin of something like 70-6, they wanted Donald Trump to win. I mean, because they know which administration is likely to allow them to, you know, kill the terrorists and face down Iran, and which one is likely to side with the terrorists and stop them.
Have global no war.
Listen, the world is going to be
no
a much
war.
more
We don't
peaceful
want
place. Nate
war.
Cohen just put out this statement 24 minutes ago. There's still a lot of vote left in Milwaukee, Detroit, and Philly. But for Harris to win, she would need to outperform Biden's numbers here in 2020. So far, she's underperforming Biden's
They want better
just
wages.
about
They
everywhere
want
in
cheaper
the country.
Fucking eggs.
That bodes ill.
Fucking
somewhere.
whatever else.
I cannot
Ass.
wait for the books to be written. I cannot wait. Joe Biden is going to rush to a biographer. Oh. He and Jill.
I ain't pressing this fucking thing again.
All over Kamala Harris.
No, hell no.
It is going to be wildly
Hell no.
entertaining. The amount
That was
of
hard.
rage Joe Biden must feel right now. And the beautiful thing for Joe Biden, and it's wonderful, it's really wonderful. It's like the best day of his life. Because the truth is that had he run, he probably would have lost. But he didn't. He got ousted for Kamala Harris. So now he gets to claim for the rest of his life
no
that if
fun.
he had been left in place, he would have beaten Trump, and they unfairly ousted him after the most successful first term and out of engagement. And then he's going to get to judge so hard over this lady he hates like fire. I mean, he hates her with the fiery passion of 1,000 burning suns. Jill Biden, same thing. She's wanted to strap
Jill
Kamala
Biden
Harris to one of
hates
Elon Musk's
Kamala.
rockets and fire her into space for years. It's going to be like the recriminations here are going to be so wonderful and so well deserved by all involved. And I'm here
Jill
for every single moment.
Biden
Every single
hates
moment.
Kamala
I
Harris.
got right. And this season, I really did. I thought this season of Trump had gone off the rails. I thought that the guy in the back room writing that script was like, you know what? Not one assassination attempt, two. We can go back to the well. We need a second assassination attempt. Like, what if the Democratic candidate died on the stage? Like, well, that'd be cool, but what if you like totally swapped him out for her? And then what if she picked like this weirdo who has floppy arm syndrome from Minnesota? Like, this writing is just bad. It's just not good writing. I'm sorry. It's overdone. It's like it's like some of the worst soap opera stuff I've ever. But I gotta tell you, they really nailed the finale. They are nailing the finale. It's unbelievably good. I'm loving every second of it. I cannot wait for the online extras. I'm subscribing. I'm like the merch. Oh, the merch. Are you kidding me? The merch is going to be unreal. It's going to be so good. And I got to tell you, the turning point of this election is when Donald Trump and I stood by the grave. And there's a picture of me and Donald Trump making prayers, you know, at the grave of Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson. That's the moment when this election was decided. For pure Zionistic laser power, that is when this election turned. Boom. Check out the polls. October 7th, 2024.
I will curse those.
Correct. There you go. God coming through once again. I had a going theory that I told some friends before this, that God definitely wants Donald Trump to win. I've been saying this for a while, that God clearly wants Donald Trump to win. There's only one reason God turns Trump's head right at the last minute, and the bullet misses him by this much. And then the other part of my theory is that Donald Trump was trying to thwart God. And as it turns out, the good part of my theory is that God always wins. You can try and thwart God. You can say, I am not called, I am not worthy, and God will still choose you. And that's how this will go. And so, yeah, you know what? You can see the smile on my face. I'm getting a little confident, guys. I went from cautiously optimistic to nauseously optimistic. And now I'm just, you know, pretty optimistic at this point. I got to say, I'm enjoying the evening. The enjoyment portion of this evening has officially begun. It's now a Jewish holiday. That's right. It went from tragedy to triumph. That's right. It's time to break out some symbolic
That's
rituals.
right.
It's time to eat some kosher food. It's time to imbibe.
Bring 'em out.
And it's time to speak some Yiddish. Yeah, baby. Suck on that, Nick Fuentes.
The Hebrew hammer.
Yeah, Hebrew hammer. Yeah,
You know, you're terrifying when you're happy. And you went after the miss.
Oh man, it's amazing to think that Donald Trump could win.
Peterson's back. Yay! I love Jordan Peterson.
Man, is just looking better and better.
It is.
Look at
Okay, so if it goes the way we think it's going, those first 100 crucial days, the agenda, tariffs.
Don't care at all. Do not care. Sorry, it's still bad. It's gonna take a little while. It's gonna need a moment with this one. The first 100 days.
Yeah.
The first 100 days is actually going to happen. It's actually going to happen. The people who are deeply involved in staffing, other than sort of Don Jr., Zach Alfletnik, deeply involved in staffing up the administration. I think that the early sort of front runner for some of these positions, Tom Cotton, Spec Death, I think Mike Pompeo might be the second name again. John Pompeo, you might take a look at Marco Rubio, senator from Florida. You're looking at for Secretary of the Treasury. That one's kind of hard.
Give me the ray gun. Give me the ray gun.
Maybe. Musk doesn't want to be in the
No, not in the government, but like his special
this
advisor.
is how a gambling addiction starts.
There's some of the investment class that I think you'll see likely nominated for some Trump.
It's the same damn gun.
Secretary of the Treasury, kind of like Mnuchin, running as Secretary of the Treasury. The thing is, Trump end up coming back. David Friedman for UN ambassador, David for UN ambassador. There's a bunch of people who are really good working to come in, and they're going to start cleaning it up, and it'll be interesting now with this very robust. I think he's going to get most of his picks through. So it depends on sort of which place you choose to focus. When it comes to domestic policy, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to make the joint tax cuts permanent. That is task number one. They're going to make this permanent so that those just don't sunset, right? Because he has to guarantee that he doesn't screw up the economy. The next thing that you're going to do is going to slap a bunch of tariffs on China, which he's going to do, I think, forthwith, and I think he should do, because China is a cheater, and China is an intellectual property thief, and they happen to be run by a dictatorship. So that'll be very good.
Remain in Mexico.
Obviously, on the border, remain in Mexico immediately goes back into place. Reinterpretation of asylum law goes immediately right back into place. Prioritization of deportation of criminally illegal aliens goes back into place. Widespread of those people and massive new investigative authority for ICE. On foreign policy, I think Israel is going to hit around nuclear facilities between the election and Trump taking office, because I think that Trump doesn't want that on the table when he gets into office, and with the Israelis knowing that they're going to have friends back in the White House, they probably go hard and they go fast and they go now. Because Trump is telling, Trump said it openly. He said, I don't want this happening while I'm president. They're like, okay, sure, no problem. We'll take care of this right now. We know that you're not there to cover problems we need. So I would be shocked if Israel doesn't go quite hard over the course of the next couple of months. One of the under-noticed stories today, because we have a thing going on, is that Prime Minister Netanyahu fired his Minister of Defense in Israel, Yoav Gallant, who's widely considered on the right in Israel to be sort of a pipeline to the Biden-Harris administration. And so he's putting in some more of his own people. He's like to go quite hard, quite fast. That is going to bring peace in the Middle East. And Donald Trump is going to bring Saudi into the Abraham Accords, undoubtedly. That is a thing that Donald Trump has already been pre-negotiating. That is going to happen. That's why he wants solidity in the Middle East. He wants Israel to finish up whatever they're doing security-wise. He wants them to finish up in Lebanon. He wants them to finish up in the Gaza Strip. And then Donald Trump is going to work. He has all those connects already made. That's all going to come into play. As far as Ukraine, Trump and Vance have already said, contrary to popular opinion, or Trump and Vance said they will continue to fund Ukraine sufficient so that Vladimir Putin does not walk into Kyiv. But they are also going to be realistic about what the prospect for what the final settlement in Ukraine looks like, which is the solicitation for Donbass and Ukraine, some sort of commitment to neutrality, but with some sort of additional funding and military resources sufficient to deter a further Russian invasion. Things are about to get
How long do you
better.
think that will take Ukraine-Russia front?
That's up to Putin.
Yeah.
That's up to Putin. I think Putin.
Jordan,
This is one of the dangers is that if you're
asking that big
signaling
question.
that you're a little weak on it, then Putin probably keeps trying to push and push and push, hoping that you'll just go away and then he'll walk into Kyiv. But here's the thing about Trump. The one thing Donald Trump does not like to do is lose. He hates losing. And he knows that if Putin is seen walking through Kyiv, he looks like a loser. So he doesn't want them. He doesn't want the photos of Vladimir Putin walking through Kyiv in the same way that he wouldn't have wanted the photos of the Taliban walking through Bagram airbase, right? So he's realistic about all of that. So those, I think, are the things that are probably front burner items for President Trump. And then there are going to be some fixes around Obamacare that will take place. He's not going to do anything on abortion. I mean, he'll put in place, all the executive orders that Republicans always do, right? No foreign funding of foreign abortions, the so-called Mexico rule. He'll put that in place. I think all of those are not only doable, I think they are eminently doable. And I think that all that.
Yeah, I think you're right. We're going to take a break while we wait for the next results to come in and tell you a little bit about what's been going on at Daily Wire Plus.
Yeah, tell us about the results, motherfuckers. I love Jordan Peterson. I love Matt Walsh. I love Ben Shapiro. Smart people. These are all the Kamala supporters right here. Kamala supporters.
You lose.
Hey, Kamala supporters, watch this.
Semtex out.
Story for you.
Wisconsin.
Jelly Bellies, right?
I am.
Ronald Reagan's favorite.
Indeed.
Okay.
Wisconsin. We're talking about Wisconsin?
They sell something called Jelly Flies, and it's the Jelly Bellies that didn't make it into the bag.
I'm not only aware of that, I've done that myself.
I'm talking about
Because I
Wisconsin.
know all things, except for what's going on in Wisconsin. So tell me, Brent, what's going on?
What's going on in Wisconsin?
Kamala Harris is Jelly
In Wisconsin?
Holding it. A+, grade A, good stuff. Keep going. Tell me.
Awesome.
All right, so as we look at Wisconsin, one thing you'll note, real red. Let's look at two particular counties that matter to Kamala Harris.
Milwaukee.
Dane, which is Madison, the capital.
Madison,
When you look at this
total
historical
libs.
comparison here, just look at the raw vote
Been there
differences
before.
between those. Kamala Harris is 8,000.
So lib.
Trump is up 2,000. Down 2 points.
Libby.
Another one. She really
Libby like a tibby.
And this was a Biden plus 11 seat, and it is now only Kamala plus 7. So you just take these factors that we've been talking about, which is the county she needs are only performing at 2020 numbers. And then you add that into the fact that if they're only performing at 2020 numbers, she's not even meeting Biden's margin in these cities. This is one of the closest states in 2020. It was less than 1% that Biden won this state by. So what's really happening is we're plugging all this data into several of our models, and it's this, is that there's not just this overall white What's really interesting is that if a county is really diverse, they want to turn out in that county.
A so-called rapid response
Think of
team.
this like a and then we have super
But I knew you would come.
Always aim for the nuts.
It was these counties that were about 75 to 85% white that had the largest shift towards Trump. And if you go back and look historically, they had the largest shifts in 2020 towards Biden. And so it's not this homogenous, all non-whites are moving more towards Trump, all whites are staying where they are. It's this unique patchwork in turnout, depending on what type of diversity there is in every county, but it's all benefiting Donald Trump. And white, black, brown.
How much does Kamala Harris got? Would they have been better off if Joe Biden in place to actually run? Because the recriminations are going to be so delicious, I will feast off of them.
Well, I'm sure it's scale, but also the negative. So it's really like but yeah, it's one of the things that we pointed out when they decided to take their Democratic elected nominee, swap it out. Says that this is really going to and you saw this where Joe Biden had a slight lead on Trump.
Guess that one was done using it fine.
That one data point shows the weakness that she was having. And these Rust Belt states all the way over to Pennsylvania So even if the Democratic Union
Of all the
votes to
nuts,
stay home,
this is my least
or they
favorite.
swap the vote, massive disruption. Brent, right now, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin are Donald Trump in both states has above 50% of the vote. Right now, 84% of the vote in. Donald Trump 66, Kamala Harris is 42, and that's with RFK Jr. still being on the ballot. I mean, we're getting dangerously close to actually being able to call Wisconsin, and if we call Wisconsin, we are essentially calling the race.
Yes.
Yeah, we also have to assume that a lot of the results that are going to come in the city's not favorable to Donald Trump. If it happens, I really hope this is blowout territory so that there's not issues. This is one of the reasons you should be like Florida and report the vote within 2 hours.
Exactly.
No question.
Exactly.
How the election played out.
Be like Florida.
It's getting really, really hard to see where Kamala Harris can pull out any of these Rust Belt states at this point.
Well, I also have a piece of breaking news. The Republicans have flipped. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. The governor's mansion in. Wait for it. Puerto Rico.
Yeah. It went off.
We actually won that, yeah. So yeah, this is great. So Brett, thank you so much. Wild news. Next time we check even more so. I'll be eating a different candy, so try to think up a joke.
Who wants to dance first? Stand up.
A lot after eating this entire of Jelly Bellies in celebration.
One hates to get this is more and more like Donald Trump.
Her number of victories, if you had to be pessimistic and things, how could things still go dreadfully wrong, or is that out of the realm of
The only way
possibility?
they go dreadfully wrong is if she suddenly, like, massive vote dumps in Philly, Detroit, and Madison, Wisconsin, Philly, Detroit, Milwaukee. It's the big cities. And I said this early on, actually, so all credit to me, because I said it early on in the night. But I said in North Carolina that if she did not win North Carolina, it was the entire election was going to come down to giant voter turnout in 3 big cities. Yeah, I did say that, like, within the first 20 minutes of this broadcast. I'm just going to point that out. I was going to point out so far, the only thing I've gotten wrong is New Hampshire. Just going to say it.
You went all in on New Hampshire.
Dude, we're going hard right now in the
I do
game.
have to say that Arizona is very close with 55% of the vote in, which that's still early, but it's essentially a toss-up, 49-49 for the two candidates. So if you're going to get pessimistic, could we end up losing Arizona and sort of unraveling our map?
Nope. Not going to. We're going to Arizona. Arizona is South territory. According to the New York Times, Arizona is very, very high likelihood of a Donald Trump win at this point. Again, it would be kind of shocking were he to lose. They have him up by a projected almost 4%.
It's at least safe to say we're going to have a winner. I mean, this probably will not drag on for days.
No, I think that there is a very good shot that we will have a winner in the season. Wow. If it continues at this rate, I think there's going to be a temptation by some now to start calling some of those Rust Belt states. If you want to be super cautious, you're probably talking about late morning, tomorrow morning. But by tomorrow night, President Trump, I think will be pretty obvious.
If they call one of these Rust Belt states,
it's over.
They've called the election.
Yes. Because Arizona is definitely going to go in Trump's category.
And then we
All
can
he
smoke
needed
our
was
cigars.
North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and one of the Rust
So
Belt.
now the Democrats are going to have to complain that the problem is the popular vote.
And there are the.
You gotta get rid of the popular
I thought you were
and
just
the
going to stop
electoral ballot.
at the problem is the people.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to go back to that point, but that is what it's going to be. Get ready for it. They are going to rage against the dying of the light, and it's going to be worse for them. They're going to have to go deep into the crevasse of fail before they start to emerge, like in something like reasonable order.
So what do you expect will happen now?
This is a big
Let's assume
thing.
the best
Listen.
for a moment, so to speak. that
Listen.
The Republicans control the presidency and the Senate and the House, and that means you have these really quite radical people, Musk and Kennedy in particular, now taking up dominant positions in the White House. They're threatening the big pharma industry, so that's a major threat.
It's not radical. Those people are
Big
radical.
agriculture. Legacy media is like
Pharma,
stone
legacy.
dead. The education
They're
establishment
dead.
is in serious trouble. The military-industrial complex is unlikely to be happy. Like, what do you guys foresee happening? That's a lot. Well, and that says nothing about the CIA and the FBI. Let's say, like, it doesn't seem to me to be realistic to presume that such people are going to just take this sort of thing lying down.
No.
And that says nothing about the leftist radicals who are quite nicely organized.
Those are the radicals.
Pro-Hamas protests. Like,
So
what do you see happening here?
I mean, there will be resistance inside each of these agencies. It's why, you know, the attempt to move a lot of these employees to so-called Schedule F is going to make a huge difference. This is something that the Trump administration is going to try and do. They're going to take the permanent political class and they're going to say they are now fireable under the you know, articles of the Constitution. The president does have unitary executive authority to fire all of these people.
Schedule F meaning what? What
Schedule
happens?
so right now, by union contract and by regulation, if you are considered a non-political appointee in the executive branch, there's a procedure that you have to go through in order to be ousted from your job. If you are redesignated as a Schedule F employee, that means you're effectively an at-will employee of the executive branch, and the president of the United States can summarily fire you. And so that's
Absolutely,
for 2020.
absolutely, absolutely.
Again, I think that there are certain areas. It'll be interesting to see what RFK Jr. is actually given. So I think RFK Jr. ends up in charge of like Ag and HHS and FDA. No,
I want RFK to put beef tallow in McDonald's fries again, and not seed oils. Get the seed oils out of all food.
I'd give him HHS, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the only problem with HHS is that's really more about the application of
And kids, school lunches, health. Keep them out. Keep them out. Yeah, food. Keep them in the food.
Type stuff.
Exactly.
You know,
Keep them out of the oil and all that.
Are we going to keep Rachel Levine in place? Is my question.
Yeah.
Doctor.
Admiral Doctor.
Only if Donald Trump will bring him on the carpet and force him to admit he's a man, and then say,
and he could stay.
No, get that bitch out.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see also, because here's the thing. Congress is still a neither is anybody in the executive branch agency. So if RFK decides to get like super radical about things in a way that Congress doesn't like, Congress can take power back from the executive branch.
Get
or
that
use
weird
it to
fucking
challenge
thing.
the court.
The
I think
fat
the biggest holdup to
tranny
Trump in
is
terms
not
of
a
whatever
health.
his agenda is.
RFK is going right in there.
Right, there will be a lot of legal cases that are filed against all of this.
No one
And
wants a
then it'll get held up,
transgender,
and the
fat
Supreme Court is not gonna take all those
person
cases.
in charge
A
of
lot
our
stuff
health.
is going to get held up. Listen, it's very hard. To
Be
make
honest.
change
Be
inside the
honest.
state government, and I think that that's overall a very, very good thing. It does.
And that's not like, yo, if you want to be trans, be trans. That's fine. Be fat, be fat. That's fine. But you can't be in charge of our health.
Trillion and spend. No, he's not. I mean, that's
In
not,
America.
that's not possible.
It's not possible to cut to
It's
Like
also
what?
why if we have Congress and the presidency
For millions and millions and
ruthlessly
millions and
move the
millions of
agenda
people.
forward and start stacking wins and stacking quickly, because we know that
Come
that's
on.
the situation
Like,
Trump had
wake
in
the
2016
fuck
for
up.
2 years,
This
and
past 4 years, I
the
can.
fact is not a lot was achieved with all that power for 2 years.
I don't want to get too hopeful,
And
but
hypothetically, he knows more about what he's doing. this
I think
time.
we are. I think we are at this point
And also any
where we can celebrate a little.
I've always worried that, well, if we advance our agenda too quickly and too ruthlessly, then the other side.
Exactly.
And then when they're in power, think of all the terrible things.
But this is actually what
If
Project
they-
2025 was about, was Heritage attempting to lay out a roadmap for how to effectuate policy rapidly in the first 100 days. And Donald Trump, as a matter of political expediency,
Trump,
distanced himself.
he's gonna save us all. God saved him. God did. God did. I prayed today.
Tremendous mistake in not
I did.
issuing some kind of small
And I'm not deleting
Bible
this.
of what it said, because it
I
was so
prayed
long
today. I
that
swear
they
to God, I
could
said.
say anything they wanted about it. Nobody knew.
And I'm not scared. No one else is scared to say it. I prayed. That was this is the biggest election
I might be the first one to break this story.
for this whole
When Trump
country,
shot down Project
for the world, really,
That was fair enough.
for the Middle East, for Iran, for fucking Palestine, everyone. No, we don't want war. We don't want people dying. Russia, Ukraine. No, none of this is. None No, it's stupid.
Clarence Thomas will end up retiring from the bench under President Trump in this next term, and that is because he's
I
76
prayed
years old.
today.
There's a good shot that Samuel Alito, who is 74, will also end up retiring from the bench, and new
Right
justices will
here
be
at this
appointed in their
desk
place,
before I
which
went
will
live.
enshrine, in fact, a
Right here, I
conservative
prayed
majority
and
on
I
the court for
said,
years to come. Because
God,
that was
please
a scary thing. I mean, Clarence Thomas
keep
is
us
the best
healthy,
justice
keep
on the
us
Supreme
right,
Court. He's still obviously
keep us
very much with it in mind.
for
He's
more.
also 76 years old, and he's not going to play the Ruth Bader Ginsburg
And
game.
I
Where
like
you
Donald
end up,
Trump that you
God
protected
forbid,
and
going
protected
under
us all.
Democrat, and then
Let's not
suddenly
knock
the
Sam
entire-
Alito.
Amen.
I mean, I'm kind of actually partial to
Sam's
Sam
great.
Alito. Both, like,
Justice Alito's fantastic. I mean, again.
so
but-
both those guys though are a little bit
long in the tooth.
of a
Long in the tooth.
certain-
Yeah, by the time that Donald Trump leaves office in this next term, Samuel Alito will be 78 years old. Right? That you're starting to get into the territory where you really want to think at 77 about whether you want to be the person who ends up, moving into a Democratic administration. That's one of the that you can be. The number one thing that Donald Trump is going to do is be not Kamala Harris. Right? He's going to stop dead from moving forward and not doing the thing of what he needs to do. It's very hard to think of massive like the things that I would want, right? Like restructuring the federal intelligence programs that are clearly going to bankrupt the country. It ain't going to. It's not going to happen. We're just going to fly right off that cliff.
It's going to happen.
It's
As you say, it's going to happen.
election day.
Right, exactly. I mean, reality will hit, it will fall off the cliff, and then austerity measures or inflation or high taxation will happen. I mean, all those things will happen. But the one thing that Trump really can do, the biggest thing he can do, is radical deregulation. Radical deregulation will happen.
And awesome.
Right, now, you get a ratio of 2 to 1, right? For every new regulation passed, you repeal 2. Now it's going to go 4 to 1, right? For every regulation that's created, 4 will As far as what happens in Congress, the answer is that, giant keeps on moving forward almost no matter what. So if you're hoping for Donald Trump to come in and lower the federal debt by leaps and bounds, that's really not.
No, he's never said he's going to do it.
That's not what the real theory of Donald Trump is we're here. Right, that if you have enough economic dynamism, eventually you'll generate enough revenue that you can pay off all of that sort of stuff. So again, that's the stuff that's sort of on the table. Again, just to give you the latest vote total. So right now, Donald Trump continues to be up by about 100,000 votes, with 77% of the vote recorded in the state of Wisconsin. Meanwhile, in the state of Pennsylvania, very, very narrow lead in the state of Pennsylvania. President Trump is up by slightly not too bad. He's up by about 170,000 votes in the state of Pennsylvania, with 85% of the votes counted. 2.1%. Wisconsin by 1.8%. Over in Michigan, Trump continues to grow there. He's up by about 130,000 votes. They're estimating that he'll win that state by 2.2%. So those are
problem, turn on, I guess.
I'm sure that Nevada's still open. So that, or if it can't still be open. It's got to be closed. But it closed not all that long ago, so I don't think that they're actually doing like a full count yet. New York Times doesn't.
The poll closed at 10 Eastern, so yes, they are.
Yeah, they closed, but there's not going to be any results in Nevada
What have I got to
for a
lose?
while yet. But it may not matter at all. Arizona, Trump's estimate, 3.7%. Almost overdone. 52% of the vote count is in. It's pretty much dead even, but the areas that have come in are areas, Tucson, Phoenix, right? All the big sort of Democrat areas have already come in for Kamala Harris. So again, a very, very, shockingly good evening for President Trump. Spencer Lindquist is reporting already that people are leaving the Kamala Harris watch party. Wow. They're walking out just like Jill did as soon as she realized Joe was no longer president of the United States. Republicans are approximately, according to Ryan Gordowski, formerly of CNN, I'm just going to keep saying that because it's hilarious, they are 1.5 percentage points away from flipping the New York 9th Congressional District, which is a 66 Joe Biden district. New Jersey. Yeah. So these are truly hilarious results.
How good is Joe Biden?
That's where I want the camera.
It's a mixed evening. You can imagine.
I don't think it's mixed for him. I think it's.
You think
Oh
it's
my
just?
God.
You think it's just positive?
Oh yeah.
If you got knifed in the back by someone that you brought up, you know,
Yeah, but
and they
there's
push
still
you to the side.
There's still that knife wound.
Yeah, and you're still out. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but
I get your point.
He's got to feel a little relieved because it could be him getting his ass kicked right now.
Yeah.
And that's a really bad way to go. The better way to go is to be knifed in the back and then claim that you were wrong the rest of your life, which is like that's a really great way to go.
And then
right
you
now,
can say for the rest of your life that, see, this is why you shouldn't have done that.
And he can say for the next like 8 days
Right,
that he.
Good luck to Joe, because this is the first time Joe Biden's prostate's working in the last 25 years. I mean, like, he's got to be really, really...
Whoa.
You know,
I didn't use it.
Yeah.
I didn't. No, no one did. No one did.
For 9,000 hours.
I'm looking to
You know, Cenk Uygur is crying.
I'm checking out the networks. David Muir looks sad. It's very sad.
Cenk Uygur is basically
especially
in tears now.
Yeah.
By the way, I got to note that Orange Hitler over here got awful lot of not white people to look for.
Yeah,
Orange
it sure
fellow.
did.
This Orange
Yeah,
Hitler fellow.
the whole intersectional thing really collapsed in a pile of dust and rubble.
I mean, that dude had like 5 Hitler mustaches. I mean, not just one, like all over his face, just Hitler mustaches everywhere. And we were told that he was, you know,
what are the poor Hollywood stars going to do?
Oh my!
I mean, they're pretty much done.
They're going to move.
They're going to move. That's right. Oh yeah, move to Canada. Then they can find out what the progressive agenda really is like. Yeah, go to Canada, you people, where your money's worth half as much.
And we can't put it past these people because we're talking about how they're going to react. They are going to say that Trump is an illegitimate president.
You think
like,
so?
No, they can't anymore. They can't. They're going to say the American people are illegitimate, and that's what I'm looking forward to. Because now the battle's out in the open. Seriously, I'm looking forward.
They're talking American.
They'll be able to accept that he's just one.
Always aiming for the nine.
You know, something.
Yes, because
they're running out of
Choppers available for export.
Of course they are.
Yeah,
there's only one scapegoat left, and it's the scapegoat that Joe Biden said out loud, and that is the American people.
Yeah.
That is the that's going to be anger.
They have not accepted a presidential election they've lost this century.
There's a less than slight chance I'll get something worthless.
I mean, you tell me. Who do you think that they will? I mean, they can win podcasts. Me and Rose and you.
Luck favors me today, Dark Ones.
Well, they're also dead. Like the Rogan interview with Trump. Oh yeah, that was I mean, they were already.
I ain't stopping.
What is left? They've lost all their credibility. They have no audience, right? And it's broadcast networks will lose their license to broadcast, and they'll be relegated to cable networks. And they should. They deserve it. There's absolutely no reason.
You're right, they've lost their audience, so what's their move? Their move is to kill us.
Luckily, I have all day.
Alright, I stopped. Alright guys, it's been 3 hours and 30 minutes on my live stream. Thank you if you tuned in. Please like, subscribe. We're all watching this election. It's an important night tonight. I can't tell you to vote because it's already done. And I have a good feeling. I got a good feeling. I actually feel a lot good. A lot more gooder now. So I love you guys. I love you. I love you. Maybe praying does work.
I think that is their play. Okay, we're starting to lose.
Y'all be easy. Y'all take it easy.
I know you're a big fan of the Inquisition, but it actually didn't stop the Reformation from happening.
And without further ado,
that's what they're doing. That's what
good night.